From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the Kern County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy, and our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters?
Here.
Supervisor Carlier?
Here.
Supervisor Flores?
Here.
Supervisor Couch?
Here.
Supervisor Perez?
Here.
Okay, before we begin the meeting, I wanted to announce that we have an interpreter this morning providing translation of these proceedings for anyone in the board chambers desiring to hear the meeting in Spanish. Mr. Fernando Lopez, if you would share that information with any Spanish-speaking audience you might have.
Buenos días. Atrás en la mesa hay unos audífonos para las personas que no hablan inglés en español. Entonces, si hay alguien aquí que no habla inglés y solamente español, en la mesa atrás hay unos audífonos para que puedan participar. Gracias.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll begin with our salute to the flag. And this morning we are honored to be joined by U.S. Army Sergeant Harry Franco. Harry Franco was raised in Bakersfield and graduated from North High in 1983. After high school, he enlisted in the U.S. Army from 1988 to 1996. During his active duty service, he deployed in support of Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm, followed by Operation Desert Falcon. Harry continued serving his country in the United States Army Reserve from 1996 to 2004 and deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. In 2004, Harry transferred to an Army Reserve unit in Fresno to train as a drill instructor, and in 2005, he deployed once again in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. His awards include 4 Army Commendation Medals, an Iraq Campaign Medal with a Bronze Service Star, and a Combat Action Badge for his actions during an IED attack on his convoy in 2006. After returning home, his mother told him that he was suffering from PTSD. Although he denied it at the time, Harry struggled to hide the effects following his final deployment. It wasn't until the end of 2010 that Harry began seeking help through the VA healthcare system and the Bakersfield Vet Center, where he continues to receive regular support and care. In 2004, Harry discovered the game of golf and quickly developed a deep passion for it. Through the game, he realized that golf provided more than recreation. It became a source of healing, focus, connection, and mental wellness. Recognizing the powerful therapeutic impact golf had on his life, Harry became inspired to help other veterans experience the same benefits. That vision led to the creation of Golf Therapy for Veterans, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The vision is to provide accessible clinics, professional instruction, and opportunities to play, creating an environment that supports veterans not only in developing their game, but also improving their mental, social, and physical well-being. We thank you for being here today, sir, and we appreciate all of your service to our country.
Thank you. Thank you.
Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is our Pet of the Week, so I'll invite out our Director of Animal Services, Nick Cullen. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Chairman Peters, members of the board. I have with me Darlene.
Darlene.
Darlene she's an adolescent Chihuahua. She's mostly ears. But she came to the Kern County Animal Shelter just several days ago, and she's available for adoption right now at the Kern County Animal Shelter.
Awesome. And what's the adoption fee for Darlene?
Our adoption fee is just $10 right now, and that includes everything you need to be a responsible pet owner. So it's a microchip, all the vaccines, a license for, I know, sweetheart, license for a year, and a spay surgery as well.
Awesome. Well, she seems pretty calm. She's not quite as shaky as most of the Chihuahuas that we see. All right. Well, good luck, Darlene. Thanks, Nick. Okay, we'll begin with considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a CA or C above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. The CA represents the consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors, while the C represents the consent agenda for the Kern Sanitation Authority and/or Ford City Taft Heights Sanitation District and/or IHSS Public Authority. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If members of the audience wish to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. Members of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. Members of the public may also comment on any closed session items. The consent agenda includes items 1, 4, 7, and 8 on page 2. Items 9 through 16 on page 3. 21 through 25 on page 4. 26 through 32 on page 5. And items 33 and 34 on page 6. Is there anybody that would like to speak regarding an item on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion or discussion.
Consent.
Thank you. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. Okay, next is item number 2, proclaiming June 2026 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Kern County, and this will be presented by Supervisor Flores.
Motion on item 2. Second.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Good morning, colleagues, members of the public. We have a very special proclamation today honoring those that are sunsetting in their golden years. It's about protecting dignity, a restoration of lives, and protecting the most vulnerable among us. Elder abuse continues to be a growing epidemic in our community. As the older adult population in Kern County continues to grow, it's expected that that rate of elder abuse will also grow along with it. The purpose of Elder Abuse Awareness Day is to provide an opportunity for communities around the world to promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older persons and raise awareness of the cultural, social, and economic processes affecting elder abuse and neglect. Elder abuse can occur anywhere, crossing all racial, social, class, gender, and geographical lines. In 2025, Aging Adult Services investigated 6,892 cases, unfortunately, of elder abuse and dependent adult abuse. So at this time, I'd like to present this proclamation from the Board of Supervisors declaring June 2026 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Kern County, signed by our Chairman, Philip Peters. And I want to present this to our Director of Aging Adult Services, Mr. Jeremy Oliver. Thank you for all the work that you and your staff do throughout the year, not just this month, but day in and week out, protecting our seniors. God bless you and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Flores, Chairman Peters, and members of the board for proclaiming the month of June as Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Let me show my age by throwing some glasses on. So, my name is Jeremy Oliver, as Director for Aging Adult Services. Elder abuse is fundamentally an issue of justice, dignity, and restoration of every individual's right to live free from abuse and neglect. Each of us plays a role in protecting our older independent adults. I encourage everyone to check in with their neighbors, friends, and relatives to notice any concerning changes and to report those concerns to Adult Protective Services, or if there's instances of abuse in licensed facilities, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Here in Kern County, we are fortunate to have a strong coordinated network of protection and support made possible through your board and our many partner agencies. These include the District Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, Public Health Department, Veteran Services, Department of Human Services, Libraries, Probation Department, Fire Department, and our many other county partners. Together, we collaborate, educate, and remain vigilant, working every day to protect older, independent adults and ensure that respect, dignity, and justice are upheld for all. I am pleased to be joined today by Program Director Colleen Philly, who leads our Adult Protective Service Division. Colleen will share information about our upcoming Elder Abuse Conference, an important event that brings together professionals, providers, and community partners to strengthen our collective response to elder abuse. Colleen.
Good morning. So Jeremy had to put his glasses on and I needed to make sure to keep mine off. So good morning, Chairman Peters and members of the board. Thank you for your proclamation and the opportunity to speak about our upcoming event. Thursday, June 11th, Aging and Adult Services will host its 27th Annual Elder Abuse Prevention Conference in collaboration with Kern County Commission on Aging, Kern County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and this year, the Bakersfield American Indian Health Project. And as with previous years, our conference will coincide with World Elder Abuse Awareness Month. This year's conference will be held at the Lux Event Center, and the title of this year's conference is Between Independence and Intervention, the Capacity Dilemma. Our panel of expert speakers will include Kendra Kuhn with the International Association for Indigenous Aging, and Tony Chicotel with the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, also known as Kern. The intent of this conference is to increase community awareness and understanding on the topic of elder abuse within tribal communities, as well as the challenges in both tribal and non-tribal communities as it relates to the decision-making and cognitive ability. The hope of having an annual conference is to raise awareness so that we are proactive in educating and standing together with our community in the fight against elder abuse. Thank you for bringing public attention to this matter. And if anyone is interested, normally we are here in June. We are actually here in May this year, so there's still time to register. Early registration is $55 through May 22nd, and regular registration goes through June 3rd and is $65. Thank you guys for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
I also want to extend my sincere appreciation to the entire Aging Adult Services staff, and especially to the Adult Protective Services Division for their commitment of safeguarding the well-being of our seniors. Additionally, I want to recognize the Bakersfield American Indian Health Project and express our appreciation for their support in this year's conference. And lastly, again, thank you for your continued support and appreciation for this, recognizing the Elder Abuse Awareness Month.
Okay, our next item is item number 3, and that's proclaiming May 2026 as Community Action Month in Kern County, and that'll be presented by Supervisor Parlier.
Motion approved.
Second.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and colleagues of the Board of Supervisors. This morning, I am joined by Rebecca Moreno, and Director of Housing and Supportive Services, and Savannah Oates, PR and Advocacy Manager with CAP-K, to celebrate Community Action Month. Community Action Month is a national event held in May each year to draw awareness for community actions that serve as anti-poverty fighting agencies and help families receive essential services and achieve long-term self-sufficiency. It is a complete joy to serve on the CAP-K Board of Directors, and we here in Kern County can't thank you all enough at CAP-K for your presence and all the great things that you're doing right here for our neighbors. Before I give the mic to you, I'd like to present you with a certificate proclamation signed by our Honorable Chair, Philip Peters. This proclamation, the Board of Supervisors of County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed May 2026 as Community Action Month in Kern County, and in recognition has entered this into the board minutes. Congratulations. Thank you, Savannah. You'd like to say a few words, please.
Good morning, Chairman Peters, county staff, and supervisors. My name is Savannah Oates, Public Relations and Advocacy Manager at CAP-K. Thank you for allowing us to come in and recognize Community Action Month today. But before I begin, our CEO, Jeremy Tobias, would like to send his regards and appreciation for the continued partnership of recognizing Community Action Month. CAP-K was founded in May of 1965, and still after 60 years, our mission aligns with the same thought, that we are helping people and changing lives every single day. Today, CAP-K operates nearly 19 different programs throughout the county. Some of this includes through our work with the food bank of over 150 partner commodity and pantry locations. And last year, we served over 22.35 million pounds of food throughout Kern County, which is a daunting number. Through our 211 service line, we connect residents and community members to over 1,500 service providers throughout the year. And through our energy program, we're able to allow families to stay safe and stable throughout the year, whether it's hot or cold, we're there to assist. Community Action Month is a reminder that through strong partnerships like today, we're able to continue the good work, continue doing everything we need to do every single day. And with that, at the heart of our housing and supportive services, I'd like to introduce you to Rebecca Moreno, our director.
Thank you, Savannah, and thank you, Chairman and Supervisors, for your continued support. Across Kern County, many families are facing housing instability, rising costs, and difficult choices between basic needs. At CAP-K, we work to prevent homelessness before it begins by providing utility assistance, housing navigation, and connections to supportive services. What makes our approach unique is that we are fully integrated. A family in crisis can access food assistance, energy support, and case management all in one place. Our partnership with the county is essential to this work, and together we are strengthening the safety net for our most vulnerable residents. We encourage anyone in need to call 211 or visit capk.org to get connected to services. Thank you again for your support and recognizing CAP-K Community Action, May as Community Action Month. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item number 5, and that's public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, ask questions for clarification, make referrals to staff for factual information, or request staff report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes, and we ask that you please state and spell your name before making your presentation.
Good morning. My name is Mitchell Nakahiki from Boron. 2 days ago, dust from Aratina construction site pushed through a neighbor's air vents and into her home. The site is closed to places where children learn and play, including fields where local youth practice and West Boron Elementary nearby. This is not an abstract concern. When dust leaves a construction site and reaches homes, schools, and recreation areas, the health risk shifts from a permitting issue to a community safe issue, especially in a region where valley fever is already known. Aratina's permits require dust control measures such as wetting soil and stopping work during high winds. The county should verify whether those conditions were followed on May 17th, because permit conditions only protect the public when they are actively enforced. Workers on site have respirators and workplace protections. Children practicing outside and residents living next door do not. That is why written verification matters. The request is direct. Order planning and natural resources to determine whether Aratina complied with all dust control conditions on May 17th and provide that finding back in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Parley, did you want to address that before we move on to our next speaker?
Thank you, Chairman. Is there anyone else here from the Boron area that would like to speak on this matter?
Not on this matter, but on budget, so I'll wait.
Okay. Could I have Craig and Brent come up to the microphone, please? Hey, Jess, just 1 second, please. Craig, can you just go over a little bit regarding the permitting process, what's going on, any restrictions, and then Bryn with County Health can maybe add some comments too.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Craig Murphy, Director, Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. So a couple things with the Aratina Solar Project. It is an approved project, and the applicant is currently going through their construction aspect of it. Basic mitigation measures, just to kind of talk about it, is first, any project has phase grading. So there was a phase grading process that was done on this particular site. Second, a fugitive dust control plan is required. That plan needs to be reviewed and approved by the Kern Air Pollution Control District, which, just for anybody that may or may not know, that's not a county agency. That is a separate entity that is independent of the county that helps to oversee air issues in the desert. So we do have an approved project. It has an approved fugitive dust control plan. This particular project in and itself, just given kind of where it was proposed, had mitigation above and beyond just some of the normal stuff. They had to do strategic 6-foot-high barrier fencing that was based on wind direction and the boundaries of their project. So before any grading or active construction took place, they had to construct these barrier fencing to kind of help produce or to prevent any dust from blowing off the particular site. I can tell you that that weekend was a very high wind advisory. I am not sure that any of the dust was necessarily attributed to this particular project. It was blowing dust from the entire desert in and of itself. I can tell you that based on communications I have seen from the Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District, there were at least 3 watering trucks that were on site trying to prevent any dust from leaving the site. The Air District has said that this applicant has been in compliance with all of the requirements that they require. I could even tell you that based on concerns we had before, there was some adaptive management that took place. Water was the initial method by which dust was being addressed. They've actually moved and they use what is now called granula snot. They had to get approval from CDFW and they had to get approval to make sure that they could apply that on the site. But this project has gone through some adaptive management practices just to be above and beyond to ensure that they are doing everything they possibly can to address any issues when it comes to dust suppression. So in general, this project is in compliant with their conditions and the mitigation measures that have been placed on it, and they have been good partners in terms of trying to adapt any of their operations. In terms of the specifics on that date, what I can tell you is that I know that they knew that there was going to be a high wind event, and they tried to take precautions to make sure that they were doing everything they can to make sure that nothing was leaving their particular site.
Thanks, Craig. Bryn, there has been an allegation of exposure to valley fever. Do we have any information in that area or specific information that maybe you could allude to?
Supervisor Carlier, through the chair, we did specifically look at this complaint and valley fever cases in Boron. When we reviewed valley fever cases, we did not note an abnormal number of cases of boron at this time. I will expand off of Mr. Murphy's comments and indicate that valley fever cases are on a rise in Kern County, but not just in Kern County, statewide and in other states that we haven't typically seen it before. And so we are trying to address valley fever from multiple different angles. One are the mitigation measures on construction sites that Mr. Murphy talked about, but another is public education. And I'd argue that that is extremely important for our community to really educate themselves, learn how to protect themselves from valley fever, because it's not necessarily just the construction sites that are of concern, but any type of wind event. Valley fever is endemic here in Kern County, and so we all need to be aware and protect ourselves. And so we have a number of different campaigns that we have going on to try to educate our residents and our healthcare providers about valley fever so they can protect themselves.
Thanks so much, Bryn. So yesterday I had a conversation with a representative from this facility. Advantis is the company over the Aratina 2 project. They stated that and this is coming from them, they had water trucks extra water trucks that were on palliative methods. It's kind of a salt solution they said they were applying along with mulch and some other methods. Look, this is a real concern to me and the community, and want to get to the bottom of it, of course. And that's why this morning I reached out to Jeremiah Cravens with the Kern County Air Pollution Control District, again, a separate agency from the county. He stated that there was a regional dust event, and I know here I had communications over the weekend with the fire chief that's in the audience regarding several wind-related fires here in the valley that were driven by high winds. And he said there was a regional wind event that occurred in the desert area also. He said that was regionally across, not Boron, but across Mojave, Cal City, Roseman. He said that he sent an inspector out yesterday after the wind had died down. They found basically everything appeared to be normal. He said that at 2 o'clock on Friday, which was one of the bigger wind events, he said that they shut down operations at 2 o'clock and put on extra water trucks along with the other mitigation measures that I mentioned. He said he's going to send an inspector out again today just to make sure everything's okay. He said that there was, with monitors and cameras, you could see dust throughout the region with the cameras. He said there was an uptick in particulate matter with the monitors, but he believes that that was due to, and these monitors just aren't there, they're regionally. There was an uptick due to the wind event. So that's the information I have right now. And thank you so much for coming forward. This is a concern. Not only do I serve here, but I also serve on the East Kern Air Pollution Control District. So mitigating these dust in any form is important, but sometimes it's hard to control, Mother Nature. And when winds get around 30 miles an hour, dust was not only prevalent in the desert, but here in the valley in Bakersfield also. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Board. Somebody left a very nice pin here. Name's Jess Sanders, and I'd like to present some the SAVE Act. What is the SAVE Act? Save American Voter Eligibility Act, also known as the SAVE Act or the Save America Act. It is a federal bill that would fundamentally change Americans registered to vote. It has passed in the House of Representatives multiple times since 2024, including most recently in 2026, and is being debated in the Senate. Today, the vote.org can help anybody get on there and vote. In minutes online from anywhere, under the SAVE Act, the process would be significantly changed. Voters would generally need to present documentation, proof, citizenship in person, and completing the registration, effectively eliminating most current online and registration methods. For most people, that means passport or birth certificate. What is the bill trying to accomplish? Its stated goal is to make sure the U.S. citizens vote in federal elections. Non-citizen voting has been a federal crime since 1996 and carries serious penalties, including fines, imprisonment, and deportation. What the SAVE Act would do is add new layers of documentation requirements on top of the verification system that is already in place and somewhat failing. In 2024, here in Kern County, we had 64,328 inactive voters removed from Kern County rolls. How does the citizenship verification work today? When you register to vote, you swear under penalty of perjury that, I guess I'll let you go.
We have to say. My name is Russell Person. Good morning, Board. Arizona has had a proof of citizenship requirement for over 20 years. 5 states will have a show your papers requirement for all voters in the midterms, including Arizona, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming, with Louisiana as yet to implement. Other states requiring ID for some voters include Indiana, Florida, Mississippi, North Dakota, Ohio, and Tennessee, usually when first registering. States that recently purged non-citizens from voting rolls include Arizona, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Mississippi, South Carolina, Utah, and Wyoming. State legislatures have recently passed 3 types of legislation. The first is laws that require every applicant to present a passport, birth certificate, or other citizenship document when they register to vote. 2, laws that require some voters to present a passport, birth certificate, or other citizenship document, in some cases as a backstop after election officials verify applicant citizenship by cross-checking other data sources. 3, laws that call for purges that may remove some eligible American citizens from the rolls. Thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board and staff. And thank you for your commitment to our county. My name is Don Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. I've been a resident of Bakersfield for over 30 years, and I am also concerned with election integrity in our state. And I would like to list some recently enacted state show your papers laws. In New Hampshire, instituted a requirement in 2024 for all in-person registrants to show a passport, birth certificate, or other document indicating citizenship when registering to vote. Last year, the state expanded the requirement to registering by mail. In Wyoming, they enacted a proof of citizenship law in 2025. In addition to a passport, birth certificate, naturalization paper, or military card, it allows people to use driver's licenses so long as that license doesn't indicate the holder is a non-citizen. The state began putting such marks on new driver's license in 2025. The National Voter Registration Act requires the availability of voter registration forms for federal elections on which applicants swear under oath that they are citizens. Utah enacted laws that apply to their state elections. They required a passport, birth certificate, tribal ID, or driver's license with a U.S. citizenship notation on it to vote. Finally, Louisiana passed a Show Your Papers law in 2024 that left all the details to the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, board members. My name is Charles Shinn, S-H-I-N-N. Continuing with the 6 states. Indiana, Ohio, Mississippi enacted Show Your Paper laws that apply to some voters in 2025. Indiana's law requires people who register using temporary ID, such as asylum seekers or people on residence or work visas, to present a passport, birth certificate, or naturalization papers. Ohio added a proof of citizenship requirement for anyone registering or updating their registration at the DMV. Mississippi law already required voter registration applicants to be checked against Department of Public Safety data. Anyone identified in the Department of Public Safety system as non-citizen had their information run against federal citizenship data through the Department of Homeland Security. 2023, North Dakota enacted a similar law. Any eligible voter who has an ID with a non-citizen mark, example, recently naturalized citizens, must acquire an updated ID reflecting their U.S. citizenship and bring it to an elections office within 13 days of the election for their vote to count. In 2025, Tennessee enacted a law that, rather than impose proof of citizenship requirements on all voters, obligates the state coordinator of elections to create a citizenship verification system by 2028 for use by county officials. Recently, Florida's governor signed a citizenship verification measure, like Tennessee, that would require all registrant applicants to be compared with the Department of Motor Vehicle citizenship records. Concerned Citizens thinks that these are fair measures that could be enacted in California. Thank you.
Good morning, board and staff. Andy Hensel, H-E-N-S-E-L. I'll talk about recently enacted non-citizen purge laws in our country's voter rolls. Arizona, Indiana, Kansas have enacted laws in the past few years to require election officials to compare voter files with DMV citizenship records and remove these voters identified as possible non-citizens. Arizona, Idaho, Mississippi, Utah, and Wyoming have passed laws since 2022 that oblige state officials to compare voter rolls with SAVE program data and remove voters flagged as non-citizens. A 2025 Iowa law creates an unconfirmed registration status when officials receive information from a reliable source that a voter is a non-citizen. People can confirm their status by providing evidence of citizenship. And in 2022, South Carolina began to allow voter purges based on information from state or national safety databases indicating someone isn't a citizen. Even supporters of these laws seem to recognize that they create significant hurdles. The challenges of developing and running these systems may have played a role in the Texas legislature's 2025 push for a passport or birth certificate law. So, as far as citizenship verification is concerned, informed citizens throughout the nation are moving to accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, County Supervisors, and County staff. My name's Heidi He, last name just 2 letters, H-E. And I'm a nurse practitioner, and I am the president of Valley Fever America's Foundation. So I want to circle back on the topic of Valley Fever. And I want to take this opportunity to speak about our request for $20,000 to support Valley Fever education and awareness in Kern County. And I think the previous speaker already mentioned, Valley fever is endemic in our area. So in 2024, we have the highest reported cases in the history. And of course, we have the highest rate in California. And for us, Valley fever is not just a statistic, and it is a real impact. And it affects the life of our family, our workforce, and the lives of Kern County residents. So as a healthcare provider, I seen patient struggles. They don't know the symptoms. They don't know when to seek help that they needed. So it is really critical for us to get accurate information to the community that patient and our members community members able to access and understand. So it's really, the request is really, this is all about, is to help people recognize symptoms earlier, seek treatment sooner, and ultimately reduce complications. So one thing I want to say is our foundation has been serving the community since 1995, and many of our board members are survivors or their family members are impacted by the Valley fever. So this is, our mission is very deeply personal to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see you there.
Heidi?
Thank you.
Young gentleman right over there, Paul, he works for me. I'd connect with him. I'd like to have further communications on maybe methods, ways I can help. But let's start with Paul. We'll get your information. We'll go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I do have the proposal. I'll hand it to him.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello. Sorry, I kept jumping the gun there. My name's Albert. I work with the M Street Navigation Center. We're here with the Good Neighbor crew that we have. We just wanted to introduce them, and I wanted to say thank you for all of the support that the county has given us for this program. We were kind of in some turmoil over Safe Camp because we weren't sure where the funding was going to come from. And I wanted to bring my crew that we have here in front of you guys to say thank you for the support that we've gotten with the other resources and partners with Cap K. We've been able to move mountains with this group. So, sometimes we're looking at housing and different numbers like that, and Safe Camp doesn't have that. But what we're really doing is we're rebuilding people's lives, and it's one step at a time. So one thing that we started recently, on April 15th, Cap K kind of jumped behind us and supported us with the program. So we're starting a job development program now out of Safe Camp in M Street. Everyone here right now is from Safe Camp, except we got one guy from M Street. I also have a couple other people that are from M Street and Safe Camp on my team. Basically what the Good Neighbor crew is, it kind of started organically. We had a neighbor, MS Security, that had made a complaint that there was loitering and trash around his area. So we have a good neighbor policy, right? And we're always telling people, hey, don't loiter, don't litter, don't, and we got the complaint about that. So my manager called him and had a conversation with him. And then I had been working with a group of clients that helped me around the shelter. And we had a conversation with them. One of them kind of brought it up to me after sharing with them. And we said, hey, let's go clean it up. So I went and met with the manager, and I told him what I would like to do. I apologized, for the inconvenience. And I told him that I'd want to bring a team out to clean up the front of his storefront, right? So we went out there, we cleaned his windows, we cleaned the front porch area of his area, we cleaned the parking lot, and we weed-eated it around his area, right? So it kind of just took off from there. We had a really good time, and it just kind of organically started. I started going on my lunch breaks with the crew, and we hit the Garza Circle next. We cleaned that area up, all the trash that had been out there, everything that had been cleaned up, and it just kept rolling with that. Once we found out Safe Camp might be in jeopardy, we, really started pushing it into gear. And
we felt like we had a program with what we were doing. So again, we just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And real quick, if I could say something else.
Sure,
So,
it's going to have to be the last thing.
Yeah,
though.
real
We're
quick,
well over the limit, sorry.
So with that program, we were given $6,000, right? And now it's a stipend program. We've teamed up with Chase Bank. They're going to get a monthly stipend to get paid, right? So we're also going to work that into the job development. And we're helping them get their GED, their license, everything they need to get a job after this program is done. So
Awesome.
I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Well, before you guys go,
Hold a second,
sure,
guys.
hang
Don't
on one
go
second.
yet.
Before you guys go, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. We appreciate it and appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. And maybe at some point in a future meeting, maybe we could put something on the agenda where we can hear a little bit more about your guys' work in depth. Supervisor Parley, I think you punched in first.
Yeah, come on back.
No kidding.
I'm trying to put it all together.
I tell you, I really enjoyed this update. You know, I serve on Cap K too, safe camping. You know, we're facing tight budget issues, but safe camping is one of the things that I personally want to really protect. I think it's a great program. I thank you. Look at how everybody smiles. I really like it. All the things you're doing. Once any other supervisors have any comments, please step over to Paul. He's over here too. Maybe give your contact information. Maybe I can do some individual help also. But thank you again for your service to our community. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'd like to invite you out for a tour if you want to come see the place. We just finished yesterday. Home Depot gave us a $6,000 grant to make the place beautiful. So we've had some colors, some plants. A lot of stuff has been going on there, and the crew has been there the whole way, putting it together with us. So it's a lot. I would really like to get your eyes on it. And while I have the floor, one thing that we're really working on. So we have $7,000. I would like that match so I can get more clients in. I have 6 right now. I would like 10. Also, with that, I need a truck and a trailer. So we don't want anything. So honestly, we don't want anything new. I found one on OfferUp for $1,000. I'll take that. These guys are very handy. I got guys that work with concrete, welding, all kinds of different things, right? So with that, we're repurposing things from our jobs that we're getting.
If we have a county sales department, we need to put him on.
Did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, you know, this is hands down one of the most exciting, incredible things I've ever seen as supervisor. I've been up here a decade and a half. And it is so righteous what you guys are doing. Just even looking at you and realizing that you come from different worlds, different backgrounds, different corners of this community maybe. But my God, you are so united on such a righteous cause. I mean, it's palpable, the goodness of what you're doing. I want to help too. I'm going to do more than Chris Parlier, though. That's important to me. But I think Chris and I can match that 7,000. I feel very strongly about that. And I'm happy to put him on the spot like that because I know how generous he is, and he and I like to do this.
Well, I did that to you at Cap K.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Who else?
I like
So we're not going to put anybody else on the spot, but I will join my colleague.
Oh, excellent. Chris, so I'm going to work with you through Chris because we have a great bipartisan relationship going where we realize all that nonsense and stuff doesn't really get us very far if we're not really doing stuff with our passion. And what good is it, right, to argue, debate till we're blue in the face? That's pointless. And so anyway, I appreciate working with Parlier because he takes action and he's a person of compassion. And what's happening here is so magic. It is so magic. And this moment you're going to remember for a long time because I think this is a game changer. And the fact that you've come down here with such pride, with such, you know, just a beautiful American spirit flowing through you. I mean it. A neighborly love, responsibility for community, standing up, you know, for what's right in your community, you know, supporting businesses who are, you know, keeping us afloat, if you will. So I'm really, really moved by what I've seen, and I want to be a part of it as much as I can. So long as Chris Parlier gets most of the credit, I think that's going to be important. No, I'm serious though. Okay, Chris, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Prayer, and thank you for God for blessing us in this.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chair Peters, board members. Just a quick moment appreciation on the record. My name is Bill LeManc, and I'm honored to serve as the Director of Airports for the county. I want to begin by thanking the board for your continued support and promotion of Meadows Field. Your leadership truly makes a difference, and we are starting to see the results of that commitment reflected in the growth and progress at BFL. I'd also like to recognize our state and federal representatives on both sides of the aisle. Over my first 10 months here, I've been warmly welcomed by all of them, and that support has meant a great deal. In particular, I'd like to thank Senator Hurtado for her leadership on SB 661 and securing $1 million in improvement funding for our airport. In fact, based on your approval of the consent agenda today, those funds will be transferred to us right away. So we are committed to putting those funds to good use, continuing to work with all of you to enhance and modernize Meadows Field for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you yesterday, Bill, for the opportunity to come out to the airport. We had a unveiling of Rowdy, there with highlighting an incredible partnership with Cal State Bakersfield, the larger economic spheres that are in place, that, we really have great leaders realigning here or aligning. And so I appreciate that. Was a lot of fun. We had the Cal State cheerleaders out there. We had a bunch of community members out there, and of course flyers coming in and out, who, recognizing Bakersfield as a really incredible place to fly from. It's like a private airport. I mean, it's just marvelous. So thank you for that yesterday. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for being there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Board. David Abbasi. I'm here to speak briefly on some campaign contribution violations, conflicts of interest, and quid pro quos, pay to play. Let's get into this real quick. You can't vote on any of the medical networks, so that's BRS, Centric, Good Samaritan, BBHH, Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital. Because there are 4 integrated networks that work as one medical cartel, and they share the pool of the money, and they also pool their campaign contributions, bribes. Let me explain something. An individual who independently makes a campaign contribution to you, Chris, that's fine. But when you have coordinated, synchronized check stacking from a bunch of guys named Singh who are truckers that are affiliates of Good Samaritan, 9 of them. Just yesterday you filed your 497. Yesterday you have 9 Good Samaritan affiliates dumping $9,000, $1,000 each. And you're going to vote on something later. You can't do that. You can't do that. That in itself is a crime. If you vote on something now, that also will be a crime. Mr. Flores, $20,000 from Centric and BRS in 2021 alone. That's a lot of money. That's way over the limit, 1,600, right? But when they use shell corporations, multiple corporations, smurfing is the term. This is to get past the campaign contributions, around the campaign contribution limits, and you can't do that. And I have that proof here today. Perez, same thing. You got money from Good Samaritan peeps, you can't vote. And I'd like to give this to the, put it on the record, please. This is
Supervisor Parlier, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, usually I don't comment on these things, but look, I had a career as a special agent with the California Department of Justice Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement. You can sit down, sir. And was exposed to millions of dollars of seizure money. And I was on a wonderful crew, so honest, so hardworking. And I have a gentleman just besmirch not only myself, but my colleagues. And talk about the Sikh truckers. Sikh truckers are trying to feed this nation and get the resources out of Kern County and get them to the region that needs to belong to help feed these people, and to besmirch them. Usually I don't get angry up here, but it makes me a little angry. And I don't know where you went to law school, but you need to get your money back. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I was going to save this for later, but I realize I have a Zoom in 5 minutes. So, I'm Megan from Peter from Boron. Hi again. Okay. The issue we're having is there's $135,000 that was promised from Aratina to us, to Boron and Desert Lake area for infrastructure, for public safety, for sidewalks, and streetlights. They had this whole mailer they mailed out. They did a mass mailing. Everyone got one. I still have one of them. I think a couple of the other residents have theirs too. It somehow has been wiped off their website, and they no longer know anything about it. And now we're kind of questioning, like, okay, well, are we going to see that? And if not, why? Because it seems like they just used that to get approved, and then now that they're approved and moving forward, it's just gone. That's what I'm wondering, at least. And also with the protections that they have 18 Cal OSHA protections for all of their workers. They're covered head to toe, PPE, and our schools that are less than half a mile away aren't receiving any type of, hey, there's dust warning, or hey, there's a lot of spores in the air, or anything. We have no third-party air quality management, and that's kind of what we are looking to see, how would we implement that? How could we get that going, or how can we be more prepared to not to be victim to the dust, I guess, is the issue. We have one confirmed case already that was she was tested in last year and she was negative. This year she is tested and she just got her results back on Friday and she is positive, so, for valley fever. So it is a concern. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Johnny Olagas. I would like to thank Peters. Thank you so much for doing such a great job and voting on principle and doing the right thing for us. As far as our other supervisors who continue to take money and vote on things that they shouldn't have, and they disrespect speakers, the community, it's extremely disrespectful to do that. I encourage you, Parley, accept the debate with Sidney O'Connor. Accept the debate so we can see who you really are, what you're capable of, what you will bring to the future. But you should not disrespect the speakers. We are here as a community. This is a community gathering. This is where we can voice our concerns. And when anybody says, shame on you, or anybody attacks the speakers, that's a problem. Thank you. Thank you, Peters.
Next speaker, please. Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public presentations and return to the board for member announcements or reports. Are there any questions or comments from the board or reports? Okay, not seeing any. That's going to take us to item number 17, a presentation on fiscal year 2025-2026 homeless and housing annual report. And I'll turn it over to Stacy Kuhara.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Peters, members of the board. I'm Stacy Kuhara, Assistant County Administrative Officer, and I'm here with Bridget Guzman, our Homeless and Housing Coordinator. Together, we are Kern County's Homeless Division. So last June, we presented the first homeless and housing update to your board to illustrate the investments the county's making to address homelessness. We highlighted program vulnerabilities that are coming up in response to funding cliffs and vulnerable funding streams. I present to you today the second update on housing and homelessness activities and our first Kern County homeless report. The report is extensive. It has a great deal of detail, including an overview of programs led through the county's homeless team at the CAO's office and homeless programs that are operated by your county departments. Homelessness, safety, the health and well-being of our community are primary concerns that have been identified by our residents and stakeholders. Community safety, affordable housing, support for vulnerable populations, access to health care, social services, and prevention programs are priorities that have been highlighted in the Kern County Strategic Plan. Oops. Today's presentation demonstrates the commitments and achievements we've undertaken to support achieving these goals. Our homeless efforts are strengthened by our collaboration with key partners and providers. The working relationship with the City of Bakersfield and the Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative are essential to ensuring that we meet these goals. Through joint planning, coordinating and braiding our funding, and establishing a system-wide vision, our partnerships ensure we have what we need to address the complex problem of homelessness. The recently released 2026 homeless pit count reported a 3% increase in homelessness across Kern County. Despite the increase, our homeless numbers over the last 3 years have been relatively flat, seeing only small fluctuations. Investments made in emergency shelters in 2026 increased the shelter count in 2025. The unsheltered count has remained relatively stable over the last 2 years. The BKRHC Homeless Strategic Action Plan was also recently updated and provided some new numbers on strategic priorities. The action plan focuses on 3 goals: reduce inflow, strengthen services, and increase outflow. While the pit count reports minimal progress in addressing homelessness in Kern, the strategic action plan identified a substantial number of accomplishments that we've made, including adding 219 housing units, significant accomplishments in increasing homeless services, and increasing prevention and diversion resources. I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Bridget, to tell you a bit more about our county homeless programs.
Good morning, Chairman.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Good morning, Chairman Peters and members of the board. I will be providing an overview of our county homeless programs. Funded by Homeless Assistance, Housing and Prevention, Permanent Local Housing Allocation, or American Rescue Plan Act dollars, the county has funded an array of services and resources that contribute to these strategic initiatives. Between the M Street Navigation Center, Hope on Heart Tiny Homes, and Safe Camping, over 889 individuals have been sheltered since July of 2025. Of these 889 people, 619 exited shelters to positive destinations, and 114 people exited to permanent supported housing placements. Rural services, including mobile showers that provide outreach, linkage to other services, and hygiene resources, have served McFarland, Delano, Taft, Mojave, Ridgequest, Oildale, Wasco, and Rosamond this past year, serving almost 600 individuals. The Mojave Drop-In Clinic serves as an East Kern hub for resources, bridging gaps for geographically isolated communities, and has served over 1,200 people since July. Our funding has also supported youth outreach, preventing or ended homelessness for hundreds of vulnerable youth. We also support the Coordinated Entry System, which is the county-wide homeless response system that ensures clients have access to homeless resources. Homeward Bound, a family reunification program, connects individuals experiencing homelessness to their family and resources outside of Kern County, giving them opportunities to reconnect with their trusted support systems and facilitating reconnections to outside home areas, including Texas, Ohio, Oregon, Nevada, Tennessee, Arizona, Wyoming, North Carolina, and Alaska. Additionally, the county is making a capital investment to build a new permanent supportive housing facility in Oildale, anticipated to be completed March of 2027. Moving forward to department homeless programs, county departments have a much broader reach into homelessness, and together they provide services that impact thousands of individuals. Aging and Adult Services operates Home Safe, a program that receives over 500 referrals annually and serves some of our most vulnerable residents, adults over 60 or adults with mental or physical disabilities. Animal Services has provided extended homeless support in the last year with the help of a behavioral health bridge housing grant. These funds have supported mobile medical clinics that reach unhoused residents and their pets. They have purchased medical and pet supplies and has funded spay and neuter surgeries for shelter residents and enabled the expansion of 29 additional kennels at the M Street Navigation Center. The Department of Human Services offers extensive youth and family programs that support housing, provide intensive case management, and provide resources that help those at risk of experiencing homelessness stay in their homes and keep their families together. CalWorks programs provide homeless assistance, family stabilization, and housing support. Bringing Family Homes program improves housing security and reduces potential need to place children in foster care. The Housing and Disability Advocacy Program supports those eligible for disability benefits to provide resources to keep them housed or support them in finding other housing resources. Transitional Housing, Building Blocks Transitional Housing, Choices Transitional Housing, and Youth Elevating Youth to Self-Sufficiency programs target foster youth or youth aged 18 to 24 with housing resources, case management, life skills, and employment support to keep youth housed, safe, and supported during the vulnerable time of transitioning into adulthood. Behavioral Health and Recovery Services provides needed mental health and substance use services to help people stabilize and recover from addiction and other necessary resources to help some of the most chronically unhoused get off the street. The Homeless Adult and Housing Services team provide treatment and housing support. The Mobile Street Outreach and Roam teams ensure those who aren't actively seeking services but need it the most have access to psychiatry, nursing, and case management where they are. And behavioral health is on site at all shelters and navigation centers, ensuring linkage to services is available. Our public spaces are protected and maintained by Public Works Code Enforcement team. This fiscal year, they have to date resolved 1,198 encampments, clearing over 9,000 dump sites throughout the county and with the Rapid Response Team or their partnership with the Open Door Network. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development provides annual funding to the county for housing and community development. These dollars are administered by the Planning and Natural Resources Department. The Emergency Solutions Grant focuses on emergency shelter and rapid rehousing. Home investments are dedicated to creating affordable housing for low-income households, supporting acquisition, construction, and rehabilitation through deferred payment loans to developers and homeowners. The Community Development Block Grant funds have been used to support housing rehabilitation and home access grants. And the CARES Act funding is ending, but has supported facilities at M Street Navigation Center and the Cap K Food Distribution Bank. And the General Plan Amendment will support implementation of housing and homeless initiatives, promote affordable housing, and streamline permitting in our county. Thank you.
Department programs are funded through state and federal dollars. The county-operated programs currently are funded through state and federal allocations or grants. Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Funds, Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, or ARPA dollars. Proposed legislation included, that's currently going through right now, includes additional requirements for entities to be eligible for our HAP dollars. We must maintain a compliant housing element, pro-housing designation. We must ensure we have encampment policies compliant with state guidelines, and a local match yet to be determined is also being proposed. It's essential that we stay current with these requirements to maintain these necessary funds. With our ARPA dollars expiring in December, 2 programs are currently at risk without further general fund contributions to support their operations. Hope on Heart is Kern County's innovative tiny homes emergency shelter. Operated by Hope the Mission, this low-barrier shelter offers 49 individual units in Oildale. For this current fiscal year through March, Hope on Heart served 73 individual clients. Their average length of stay is 149 days. And of those who left, 44% left with a positive exit and 30% left going into permanent supportive housing. Hope on Heart has been funded through ARPA and will require a general fund contribution of $1.1 million to maintain operations from January 1st through the end of the fiscal year. Safe camping at M Street is our only safe camping offered throughout Kern County. It's operated by CAPK, and this program currently offers 42 designated tent spaces adjacent to the M Street Navigation Center. It gives residents access to hygiene facilities, meals, and case management services. Safe Camping has served 116 unique individuals this fiscal year through March. 36% of their residents leave with positive exits, and 32 exit into permanent supportive housing. Safe Camping is a unique facility in many ways. You heard that this morning. The residents have really developed their own culture and programming and an environment that we have not seen in other homeless shelters. In addition to the Good Neighbor crew who you heard from this morning, they have their own ambassadors for their program, where they created their own set of governing rules to maintain order and keep the facility clean and tidy. Safe Camping residents stay in Safe Camping longer than any other shelter operating that we monitor and manage. This means instead of cycling between emergency shelter and the streets, they generally stay until they're ready to move to a positive destination. Safe Camping and Hope on Heart have the highest rate of positive exits and exits to permanent housing. Safe Camping has been funded through ARPA. It will require a general fund contribution in order to stay operational. In order to keep their program competitive, they've reduced their budget significantly and will be partially funded for fiscal year 26-27 with a behavioral health bridge housing grant of $480,000. The general fund contribution requested to keep Safe Camping operational for the fiscal year is $308,000. For the year ahead, we'll be focusing on 4 goals. We'll be launching a countywide homeless dashboard that highlights our programs, provides quarterly updates on deliverables and outcomes, and provides linkage and direction to countywide homeless resources. We'll look for opportunities for pooled investments to support additional permanent supportive housing with our partners, the City of Bakersfield and BKRHC. We look to combine our investments to ensure we're making greater progress toward preventing homelessness and increasing the outflow from homelessness. We need to continue to look for additional funding to sustain and expand operations. We know we're under-resourced in homeless services outside of Bakersfield, and expanding homeless services in our unincorporated areas of Kern is a top priority. And finally, we'll be implementing the first Oildale Street Outreach Service. Your board approved an agreement today with the Open Door Network, the service provider chosen through an RFP to provide street outreach services to Oildale. This program will begin operations in the next few months. They'll be partnering with Code, Behavioral Health, the Sheriff's Office, local nonprofits, religious organizations, and Aikido Street Medicine to ensure we're addressing one of the biggest areas of chronic homelessness in our county. So thank you for your continued support and investments in these services. This concludes our presentation. Our recommendation for today is that your board receive and file this report, and we are available if you have any questions.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Before we go to public comment, are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have one.
Supervisor Couch.
Is this the first time we will have ever made a general fund contribution to this effort?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions from the board, I will open it up to public comment on this item. Any members of the public like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion, and Supervisor Perez.
Stacy and your team, I want to thank you for your efforts. This presentation was exceptional, as holistic, it was clear, and the progress in particular, which is just so exciting. So I really want to tip my hat to you guys. This is an exceptional presentation. It's exciting to see where things are working where we need improvement on, obviously, but certainly the areas that are working are very exciting. The placement rate, leaving hope on heart, which we've always been, really hopeful about. It's just so nice to see it coming to fruition that way. That's a very exciting project. And then all the stuff happening at the Navigation Center, in particular, the synergy that is being created around community and accountability, in support of our downtown businesses. And it's just really marvelous. Thank you. I want to be helpful as I can in any way, so please let me know what that looks like moving forward. Thank you for the clarity on the budget issues. It seems to me like something we should really fight to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Flores.
Thank you. I'd like to also echo Supervisor Perez's thank and gratitude. Thank you, Stacy, for being the lead of our county efforts and for having this comprehensive report on all the fronts on homelessness. Oftentimes, the public doesn't see the work that's being done behind the scenes. I see it. My colleagues see it. We're always engaged on a weekly, monthly basis, working so many fronts and so many angles. I'm very optimistic about the Open Door Network and the crews are going to be dispatched as our new outreach program. And also, I'd like to thank Public Works and their recent ability to draw down a $1 million grant from Caltrans on paying homeless crews from the Open Door Network to do work, to give these people salaries and go out in the community and do cleanup, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So keep up the good work, and thank you for this presentation, and we'll continue to do what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Flores. Any other questions, comments, or a motion?
I'll make a motion. Again, thank you for your work. That was major progress in 5 years. It's pretty astonishing.
Second.
Thank you.
When do we have to make this budget decision?
This year.
When we adopt the budget in June?
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, yes, this is bundled as part of the proposed budget that you'll be hearing about later in this morning's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
All right, thank you. Our next item is item number 18, and that is actuarial evaluation as of June 30th, 2025, employer and employee contribution rates for fiscal year 26-27 for the retirement system as recommended by KSARA. And I believe that presentation will be with Ms. Elsa Martinez.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Let's try again. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Today, I am presenting the recommendation to adopt employer and employee contribution rates for fiscal year 26-27 based on the June 30, 2025 actuarial valuation. And I will also provide a brief overview of future retirement cost pressures facing the county. So under Government Code Section 31453, the Board of Retirement hired the Siegel Group to prepare an actuarial valuation of the retirement plan as of June 30, 2025. The full valuation report is attached to the staff report, and it is approximately 219 pages long. But since I'm a good steward, I listened to Supervisor Perez and said, put it in English. So I actually borrowed these slides from the KSARA board. Supervisor Couch may recognize it. It was presented at the last meeting. So in simple terms, the valuation looks at several key factors that determine how much the county must contribute to the retirement system. And listed on this slide are those factors. The first factor is the member data. This includes the number of employees, salary levels, retirements, and cost of living increases provided to our employees. The second factor is the plan benefits or plan provisions, which are the benefits your board grants to our employees. For example, 3% at 50 and 2% at 50 for safety, and 3% at 60 and 1.62 at 65 for our general members. The third factor is the financial data or the investment performance. How did the retirement investment perform financially over the year? The fourth factor, and one of the most important, is the actuarial assumptions set by the Board of Retirement. These assumptions include expected investments earnings and estimates on how long our retirees will live. And then the final factor is funding policy, which determines how retirement costs are paid over time, especially when investment returns fall short of expectations. So together, these factors determine the county's retirement contribution rates. Listed here are the rates for the upcoming fiscal year. You will hear during our budget presentation that our benefits for employees are increasing, and one of those benefits are retirement. So this is an interesting fact. While the evaluation recommends employer contribution rates that are lower, listed here, our general members' contribution rates are decreasing from 35.74% this fiscal year to 39.29% next fiscal year, a decrease of 1.45%. For safety members, the combined contribution rates are decreasing from 77.24% to 75.59%, a decrease of 1.65%. And although contribution rates are decreasing, the rates themselves are decreasing, the county total retirement cost is actually increasing. So the increase is mainly due to higher salaries and payroll growth, which can be seen on page 35 of the evaluation report if you're interested. So as retirement costs increase, fewer county resources are available for other priorities such as operations, staffing, infrastructure, and public services. So one of the biggest drivers of retirement costs is the actuarial assumptions. As I mentioned, those refer to the assumed rate of return, the life expectancy of our members, the cost of living. So there's many factors that are determined to provide a rate through the county. Those factors are the responsibility of the retirement board. So these assumption changes are reviewed every 3 years through an experience study. This next study is this coming fiscal year. And the rates, if there are changes, will be reflected in fiscal year 27-28. So if your board recall, the last time the assumed rate of return was changed from 7.25% to 7%, that increased the county's liability by approximately $181 million. Annually, we ended up paying $22 million more to the retirement system. So that's a lot of money. And then although lowering the investment assumption provides the long-term fiscal stability to the retirement system, it also increases the short-term cost to the county. So the retirement costs, if the retirement costs continue to rise, fewer resources are available for county services such as staffing, infrastructure, and other operational needs. So in the next coming months, we will continue to work with the retirement board, evaluate the experience study, and keep your board appraised of any changes that are adopted by the retirement board. Today's recommended action is for your board to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 employer and employee contributions rates as reflected in the June 30, 2025 valuation. This action will ensure that the county continues to meet its long-term retirement obligation. This concludes my prepared remarks, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Elsa. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Thanks for the good news.
Okay, not seeing any questions. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will. Okay, seeing none, we're going to bring it back to the board for any final questions or motion.
I refuse to receive and file. Make a motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
All right. Item 19 is preliminary fiscal year 26-27 budget recommendations.
This is our second item of the morning. So the budget discussion is our second presentation on the development of the fiscal year 26-27 county budget. The first discussion was held on February 10, and a final budget adoption is scheduled for June 30th of 2026. The purpose of today's discussion is to present balancing strategies and preliminary funding recommendations for departments experiencing service impacts under the initial general fund allocation approved by your board in February. This meeting provides the board and the public an opportunity to review updated fiscal information, ask questions, provide feedback, and offer direction before the final recommended budget is prepared. The county continues to face a structurally constrained fiscal environment driven by economic uncertainty, inflationary pressures, slowing revenue growth, federal and state policy changes, and rising costs for mandated programs. Despite prudent fiscal management in recent years, long-term projections continue to show expenditures outpacing revenue. Today's presentation would outline both the challenges and proposed solutions to balance the county's $4.1 billion proposed budget. One of the key challenges is the governor's revised budget proposal. The revision to the governor's January proposal are intended to address long-term state deficits through spending reductions, rebuilding reserves, and avoiding major tax increases. The proposed state budget totals $350 billion, and it is designed to leave the next governor with a more stable fiscal outlook. Unfortunately, the proposal does not provide the same level of stability for counties. The May revision does not include new funding to address county administrative costs associated with Prop 36. And as Stacy Kuwahara noted, homeless housing assistance and prevention funding now includes additional requirements, including a potential local funding match. We also anticipate funding reductions to adult protected services and cost shifts from in-home supported services to the county. As discussed during the last budget presentation, H.R. 1 presents a significant shift in fiscal responsibility for safety net programs from federal government to states and counties. This is another graph that I borrowed from somebody else because I think it's very important to highlight the governor's revisions provides funding for only one component of H.R. 1, county eligibility operations. And the proposed amount is substantially lower than counties estimate would be required. This slide was borrowed from a presentation to county executives across the state. And as it's listed on the first column, the county ask was $1.9 billion, and the amount included in the May revision is only $292 million. As you can see under the first column, only eligibility work includes funding. Public hospitals, behavioral health, and indigent care do not include any funding. So one of the proposed revenue solutions presented by the governor is sales tax on certain intangible products. The proposal will apply sales tax to digital pre-written software and software as a service transactions. The state estimates this change could generate approximately $900 million annually once fully implemented. During the press conference, the governor also suggested counties use this potential sales tax revenue increase to address H.R. 1 impacts. But it's important to note that county, we do not know yet how much revenue this proposed sales tax change could generate locally. As shown here in this graph, only 1% of the local 8.25% sales tax is discretionary. The remainder of the funds either go to transportation, realignment, or the state. In addition, the county is not exempt from paying sales tax and would also have to incur additional costs for software purchases that are subject to the new tax. So just for reference, our Microsoft and Workday licenses would cost approximately $1 million more annually. So the coming week will be critical as the California legislature enters an intense period of public hearings, committee reviews, and final budget negotiations. County staff will be in Sacramento this week advocating for the county's position. So given the unresolved state challenges, the budget does not yet reflect all potential impacts. At this stage, we are planning for areas within our control, and we have prioritized core functions that sustain services for our community. Now, Mr. Alex Alba will review the budget recommendations for your board consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Good morning, Chairman Peters and members of the board. Today, as I begin the budget discussion, I just want to remind everyone that we're stepping into a year defined by inflation, slower economic growth, and a highly unpredictable environment. The national outlook suggests continued uncertainty at both the federal and state level with spending cuts, which shapes our planning for the budget year. I'll begin with this slide that we presented at the guideline. It's our largest discretionary revenue source, which is property tax. This revenue remains the most stable revenue source, and it's the core of our discretionary revenue base. The trend in assessed value growth is central to this year's budget development process. After continued discussion with the assessor's office, we are maintaining our initial projection of just under 1% increase in total assessed valuation for next year. Within that, residential and commercial property on the secured row is expected to increase, while oil and gas assessed values are still projected to decrease. This slide illustrates while assessed value continues to grow, the pace of that growth has slowed over the years. The slide shows a 10.7% healthy growth in 2022 with only a 0.9% growth in 2026. This deceleration reflects two factors working in opposite directions: moderate increases in residential and commercial, while significant declines in oil and gas values. For 26-27, this means our property-related revenue base is still stable, but that growth that we have historically relied on is much more limited. Our planning must account for that and ensure that we maintain service levels while staying disciplined about our ongoing commitments. This slide provides our discretionary revenue for our three major sources: property tax, which I mentioned earlier, and you'll see the flattening out as it's going into the next fiscal year. And then the second one is our sales tax. Sales tax comes from business and industries as well as fuel and service stations. Over time, we've seen modest growth, including a bump there from Measure K in fiscal year 23-24. But overall growth has remained fairly flat. It's important to know that in fiscal year 24-25 also included a $20 million recovery of sales tax. Looking ahead, we expect growth to slow down. Collections will remain flat due to ongoing economic pressures. The last line you see there is other revenue. That category includes our interest earnings on cash balances, and last year, the Federal Reserve reduced the federal fund rate 3 times, bringing that target rate down to 3.50 to 3.7% in response to economic slowing conditions. Because future rate changes and cash balances can fluctuate, we take a conservative approach and budgeted interest earning this for the next fiscal year at $12.6 million. This slide provides the overall total growth that we're expecting for fiscal year 26-27, which is 8.9. You'll see our most stable revenue source, property-related revenue at 4.9, sales and other taxes at 3.1, and then other revenue as right below $1 million. And then I'd like to discuss Measure K. Measure K has been a significant source of revenue for our safety departments. As you can see in this slide, the vast majority of these funds, about 94%, are dedicated to ongoing commitments. These are core operating costs that keep our public safety and essential county services functioning. That includes salaries and benefits, operational support for your sheriff's office, your fire department, district attorney, and other key departments shown on this slide. Because Measure K revenue continues to be volatile, especially with declining activity in major energy, industrial, and construction-related sectors, this year's recommendation does not include any new initiatives. Instead, we are focusing on maintaining stability in the services residents rely on. To support that stability, we are proposing a $3.8 million, as you can see up in blue, or about 5% revenue to be set aside for reserves. That's an important step to protect the county from year-to-year swings that could occur when large one-time industrial purchases fluctuate. Those strong reserves help ensure that even when revenue dips, we can continue to fund ongoing public safety operations without disruption. I'll pause there in case there's any questions before I move on to costs.
Not
Now-
seeing any.
Thank you, sir. I'll transition now then over to cost, from revenue over to cost. As discussed, overall cost pressures that are shaping our overall budget picture for the coming year is presented on this slide. This slide highlights the major drivers behind the 35.6 million cost increases in additional costs for 26-27. First, as Elsa mentioned, our personnel and labor costs are continuing to rise. Pension obligation, bond payments, scheduled step increases, higher retirement, and health benefit costs all contribute to that growth. We're also planning for the impacts to public health for SB 525 minimum wage requirements. We're also seeing an increase in operational internal service costs. This includes rate adjustments from internal service departments, higher utility costs, and changes in general liability or workers' comp. And then we have increases in your social services and community programs. This includes growing demand for general assistance, foster care, or adoption support, as well as the county's required contribution for any changes in HR 1. These areas reflect both statutory obligations and community needs. Finally, we have facility and public safety related items such as the sheriff's substations, animal services facilities, and adjustments tied to AB 1869 criminal fees. While these are specific projects or statutory changes, they add to the overall cost we must plan for. Together, these ongoing cost increases underscore why maintaining stable revenue and strong reserves is critical. Even in a year with relatively flat revenue growth, the county continues to face substantial cost pressures and necessary to maintain service levels. This slide was presented at the guideline level, and it shows our major cost for our county services, which is our personnel. You'll see that personnel-related costs have grown over the past several years. This category makes up the largest share of our budget and are the key drivers to our overall cost increases. Starting with salaries there in the bottom orange, you'll see a steady growth each year as the workforce expands, negotiated wage increases take effect, and the salary increase from what you see there, 587 million to 867 million in 26-27. That's an increase of 279 million over that period. Retirement costs have grown significantly. They rose from 293 million in 21-22 to, you see a peak there in 361 million in 24-25, before some easing in 25-26, and again, projected an increase, as Ms. Martinez mentioned earlier. Health benefits continue to rise. They increased from 96 million to 133 million in 26-27. This reflects both higher medical premiums and increased utilization. The final category you see on top is the other category, which includes workers' compensation, unemployment, and those are also increasing in the next fiscal year. What this shows is that while costs continue to rise, the rate of growth has begun to slow. Even so, these increases driven by salaries, retirement, health benefits remain substantial and continue to put pressure on the county long-term financial outlook. Understanding these trends is essential as we plan for the future and work to balance rising costs with our available revenue. So now I'll go over, I went over your revenue, your expense, the cost increases, and what departments had to do in order to make up that gap between the revenue and the expenses. Given this revenue outlook and rising cost pressures, your board provided direction in our guideline presentation to have departments submit budgets at similar guideline levels as fiscal year 25-26. This required departments to identify cost control measures, prioritizing essential services, and plan for long-term stability. First, to control those costs, departments reviewed funded vacancies, overtime usage, contracts, and interim funding shifts. We also explored opportunities for realignment flexibility, including the ability to transfer 2011 realignment funds between sub-accounts when appropriate. Second, we looked for ways to increase revenue. This includes evaluating potential sales tax measures, which you'll hear later today presented by Jason Wiebe from the County Administrative Office. Departments also reviewed their own fee structures for possible increases, and departments continue to work with our office to aggressively pursue grant opportunities, knowing that every additional dollar we bring in helps reduce that pressure on that general fund. Third, departments prioritize essential services. This means that departments had to identify the programs and functions that are absolutely critical to public safety, public health, and core county operations. As we evaluate reduction for the future, we ensure that these essential services remain protected. At the same time, we began developing a 5-year mitigation plan. This balanced approach ensures that we remain proactive, strategic, and focused on our long-term fiscal health. This is a new slide that we developed for the budget process. As I move into the discussion and supplemental budget requests, this slide shows how the county evaluates both ongoing and one-time requests. Departments submit a wide range of proposals each year, but we apply a consistent, priority-driven framework to determine what moves forward through the recommendations. At the top of the funnel are mandated requirements. These are items that are legally obligated to fund, whether they come from the federal, state, or court mandates. These requests must be addressed first because they ensure that county remains in compliance with all statutory responsibilities. Next, we evaluate requests tied to health and safety. These are investments that protect the public, protect their employees, or address critical operational risk. If a risk directly impacts safety, it receives a high level of priority. After that, we review items needed to maintain essential services. These requests help ensure that core programs remain functional and that service delivery to the community is not disrupted. We then look at proposals that preserve investments in our workforce that includes resources needed to retain skilled employees, support training and development, and maintain county's ability to recruit and hire. Finally, we consider infrastructure and facility needs for one time. These are often long-term investments that support service delivery, improve efficiencies, or address building and equipment. While important, these requests are evaluated after higher priority categories unless they pose an immediate operational risk. By filtering this way through this structured process, we ensure that limited resources are directed first to legal obligations and critical services, and any new funding aligns with the county's long-term fiscal stability and services priorities. As we look at how supplemental budget requests are evaluated, it's important to recognize that not every department submitted a supplemental request. But that doesn't mean that every department didn't need additional funding. In many cases, these departments had to absorb significant cost increases within their existing budgets. Across the county, departments managed more than $16.5 million in impacts. They held vacant or eliminated over 120 positions to stay within their budget. For example, as displayed on this slide here, several general government departments absorbed costs by deleting or unfunding longstanding vacant positions. This included our office, the County Administrative Office, Human Resources, General Services, Information Technology Services, and the Audit Controller, removing one vacant position to offset increased costs. In Public Protection, down at the bottom, you see the District Attorney's Office that deleted 10 long-standing vacancies, saving nearly $2.9 million, while maintaining recruitment capacity through the use of extra help law clerks. Continued with public protection, you see it at the top, the public defender. They absorbed more than $2 million by deleting 12 vacancies. The probation department deleted 9 vacancies for an additional $1.5 million. Planning and natural resources also contributed by deleting 2 vacant positions. Your health and sanitation, public health has continued to delete positions, which on this slide, you see 20 vacant, accounting for $2.5 million in reductions. And in public assistance, you have your human services down there at the bottom. They deleted 49 positions and used realignment for approximately $4.89 in cost savings. Aging and adult services and veteran services also absorbed impacts by delaying hiring. Then finally, you see at the bottom, the library for 17.29 positions. They unfunded nearly $500,000 in unfunded extra help. They're reviewing and evaluating the changes to their branches to reduce hours in the least impactful way. So that was part of the strategy in reducing or mitigating that structural deficit. The next portion will go over our CAO recommended, our funding recommendations. This first slide outlines the supplemental funding the CEO is recommending for fiscal year 26-27. What you'll see here is the recommended support focuses heavily on sustaining essential services and addressing cost increases that departments cannot absorb. In general government, we're recommending just over $1 million in ongoing funding and $1.17 million in one-time support for general services. You heard a presentation last board meeting by Michelle about the investments in our parks. This will help the department manage rising operational costs tied to sustained inflation and expanding the county footprint, higher repair and maintenance needs, and we're also recommending one-time funding for utilities, about $548,000, to address countywide increasing utility costs. And for information technology services, one-time support to maintain core contractual services. And as you heard by Ms. Kuwahara earlier, we're recommending the Homelessness Division receive $1.4 million in one-time resources to continue operations for safe camping and Hope on Heart. On the public protection side, we're recommending just over $1 million in one-time funding for indigent defense program and another $1 million for probation to maintain minimum staffing levels related to the Disability Rights California requirements. These are essential, legally required services that must be supported. This slide also contains public protection and public assistance recommendations. For the Sheriff's Office, we're recommending $20.5 million in ongoing and one-time support. This funding is intended to stabilize the public safety workforce, replace critical vehicles, purchase necessary life and safety equipment. These are investments that are aimed at maintaining operational readiness and ensuring staff can safely perform their duties. Animal Services is recommended to receive $314,000 in one-time funding to maintain staffing levels during this period of operational strain. And Public Assistance, we're recommending $2 million in ongoing funding for Human Services to support child welfare services and maintain those standards. Altogether, the CEO is recommending just over $14 million in ongoing and $16 million in one-time funding across all departments in response to critical needs presented this fiscal year. This slide summarizes the three largest recommended investments: $2 million for Human Services, $2.2 for General Services, and $20.5 for the Sheriff's Office. These totals reflect a focused strategy, sustaining core services, meeting mandated obligations, and addressing operational pressures that can no longer be managed internally. Each of these recommendations directly support essential functions, whether public safety, facilities and operations, or critical social safety net programs. As discussed earlier, not every department submitted supplemental requests. Many continued absorbing rising costs by eliminating vacancies, delaying hiring, or restricted services. The recommendations here reflect the areas where internal measures were no longer sufficient, even after cost control measures, and where strategic investment is needed to maintain stability. I'd like to invite these three departments up to discuss the funding recommendations. You heard earlier a whole presentation by Ms. Kuwahara, but at this time, I'd like to invite the Sheriff's Office, General Services, and Human Services to present those funding requests.
I wasn't sure where we were going to do this at, there or here. I know I don't want to be up there. Yeah, after this morning, I don't want to be up there. It's important to note that we are in concurrence with the recommended budget from the CEO for the Sheriff's Office. If you recall, back in 2008, we started on an economic downturn that lasted for several years. We lost several employees. We had substations that had one deputy, two deputies in them. It was an unsafe environment, but the economics at the time really put us years behind. In 2020, we started rebuilding our infrastructure and our staffing in the Sheriff's Office. In 2021, we were minus 27, meaning we lost 27 more people than we were able to hire. In 2022, we were minus 22. In 2023, we were plus 102. 2024, we were plus 106. Last year, we were plus 72. So far this year, we're plus 40. I had to double check this number, but in the last 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years, we've hired 800 new employees. Those are filled vacant positions that we already had that we had lost during the economic downturn. Now, the net gain is 320 because we lost almost 500 people during that period of time. But what you've seen is, especially the supervisors that are in substations, that have substations, a turnaround from the public comments that we get daily. I've gone from complaints every single day to praise for seeing more deputies in substations. We've brought back our gang unit that we lost during the economic downturn. The gang unit is directly responsible for keeping violent crime at a minimum. We've added our additional deputies to our narcotics unit, and I can't say enough of what the narcotics and the gang unit have done in the last 6 to 8 months in seizures. Just last week, they seized 70 kilos of cocaine. We're seizing hundreds and hundreds of pounds of narcotics that we've never seen before, directly responsible for this narcotic unit and this gang unit, and thanks to this board for funding those units because we desperately needed those. In our substations, we now have 201 deputies. That's almost what we had in 2008. We have 85 patrol deputies. We've added park rangers, and park rangers have done a great job coming on board, accepting the responsibility of working for the sheriff's office, and we're very proud of what the park rangers have done. Just this last week, I received a social media comment on a place at Hart Park that was being vandalized, and we were doing nothing about it. I texted the undersheriff, and I asked him to look into this, and he said, we've already made arrests by park rangers. So we know we're having a positive, the park rangers are a very positive gain to the sheriff's office. In detentions, we've added a mental health facility that houses only people that have severe mental health issues. As you know, we have people in the jail that are incapable of going to trial because of their mental health issue, and those are difficult people to house. You have to give them special attention. It requires personnel to do that. Another important aspect, and I call it the flagship of is community-oriented policing. We've struggled throughout this last 20 years to really do correct community-oriented policing. We had deputies that were driving to Ridgecrest, working their shift and driving home. No ownership in the community. Thanks to this board, we added a stipend for deputies that were willing to live in the substations that they worked. Currently, we have 4 in Ridgecrest that live there, 7 in Roseman that live there, 7 in the Kern River Valley that live in the Kern River Valley, 1 in Boron, and soon we think we will have 1 in Pine Mountain Club, which has always needed a deputy sheriff. We've added 3 new substations. We built Taft, and we're in Taft. If you recall, that substation was falling down, sinking. We're in the process of building a new Roseland substation, which is really needed. And we've added the casino substation, which will open within the next 30 days. I'm going to invite the Undersheriff McCurtain to talk about the ongoing cost of equipment, because when you hire new people, you have to have equipment, and a large percentage of our money is spent there. Larry?
Perez.
Thank you. Donnie, I'm just astonished at some of the numbers, thinking about where we've gone from 2008, getting to Measure K, getting to where we are now. What percentage would you say we're at from before that downturn? It sounds close, but overall,
I
what
think
is your
we're
gut?
about 97% there. Wow. But keep in mind that a lot of those people are in field training, a lot of those people are in academies. They're not usable to us, but we've had, my budget team has worked with the CAO and their budget team, and I can't tell you the cooperation that we've had with the CAO's office. We struggled for years and had to have that communication, that trust that I believe we have now.
Outstanding. Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, Supervisor Peters and members of the board. I would like to touch on a few points with the one-time contribution cost for our infrastructure and our equipment. And as the sheriff said, I'd like to say a special thanks to your board for supporting us, and Nancy's team, and Elsa, Alex, and Kaylor along with Yvonne and our financial services team. There was a lot of sleepless nights, I know, and phone calls, and I appreciate Elsa answering the phone when I call all the time to bother her with budget. But our one-time investments, as the sheriff spoke on, with patrol increasing, obviously there's a need for patrol vehicles and other equipment. So this supplemental request provides patrol vehicles for deputies who are currently in the field training program and who are scheduled to go to the program this year, so that we can order these vehicles, have them outfitted, and have them ready to go for local patrol and the outlying areas. It also increases the safety and operational effectiveness of specialized units during critical incident management and response. It provides for critical safety equipment, which includes body armor and specialized equipment that was set to expire this year for our special weapons and tactics team. More less than lethal equipment for our patrol deputies, so that they have other force options to use when dealing with dangerous incidents. And of course, specialized vehicles. This will also give the Sheriff's Office the ability to pre-stage specialized equipment in different areas of the county, increasing our response times to critical incidents. Some of this funding also provides purchase for advanced life support equipment for our search and rescue, our special weapons and tactics, and our air support paramedics, who render support during search and rescue operations and tactical response incidents, not only for the public, but for our personnel as well if they become injured or, God forbid, gunshot wounds and things of that nature. What this funding does provide for is equipment that will directly benefit responses to rural areas in the county, more specifically for special weapons and tactics events, bomb squad events, and air support responses. Some of this equipment, as your board is familiar with, last month was a good example of what our deputies are dealing with on a daily basis. Last month, we had 3 vehicles that were struck by gunfire, 2 vehicles that are specialized or operated by special weapons and tactics personnel, and those were struck by high-powered rifle rounds when we were assisting a neighboring county. And the next day, we had a patrol vehicle on Highway 58 struck multiple times with handgun fire. So those are the type of incidents our deputies are responding to. And this budget does provide for increasing the safety of them, and I will assure you that our residents appreciate it, and especially the deputies that are inside of these specialized vehicles during these incidents. When they do receive gunfire, they are more than thankful and appreciate and want to express their thanks also to the county team. So I'll be available for any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Parlier.
Thank you, Chairman. Sheriff, I just want to compliment you, Larry, also the 3 substations that you mentioned are all in District 2, fortunately, but I know those services are going to splash over or lend assistance to really the whole county as we build out our capacity, not only with the new substation at Roseman, but I believe it's the 28th of this month, we're going to do the unveiling for the fire station and the new sheriff substation at the Tejon Casino. Building up your troops. One thing that I hear from my area is really nothing happens. Business, school, when you talk about safety, nobody can do those functions without the Sheriff's Department. And I want to thank you for building back the department again and all your personnel for their hard work.
And Supervisor Parlier, through the chair, I neglected to mention the flock cameras that we've added with your help throughout East Kern. The flock cameras are a miracle for solving cases. We've been able to save children who have been abducted for sex purposes by tracking flock cameras from here to Fresno to Nevada, and to be there with the suspect and the victim within about 8 to 10 hours. So they really have paid dividends for public safety.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
If I could just say, that was a really excellent presentation. It was very clear, very succinct. Larry, excellent work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good morning. Michelle Burns-Lusich, Chief General Services Officer. Just last week, I shared an update on park improvement efforts, highlighting both upcoming projects and several that have recently completed. As noted in that presentation, Kern County has invested more than $102 million in park improvements over the last 4 fiscal years. This is a significant and important investment in our communities. However, continued resources, including maintenance staffing, will be necessary to maintain these improvements and ensure they remain in good condition for many years to come. As a general fund department, General Services faces an ongoing challenge to meet increasing operational demands while managing limited financial resources. In recent years, maintaining current service levels has become increasingly difficult due to rising operational costs, inflation, supply chain challenges, changing market conditions, and employee retention. These ongoing fiscal pressures continue to impact the department's ability to maintain existing service levels within current budget limitations. Several factors have contributed to increased costs within General Services budget and the growing need for additional net general fund contribution support, including contract services, general liability, and equipment loss. The department remains committed to operating efficiently and identifying cost-saving opportunities whenever possible. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Lee Tomarello, Director of Human Services. I'd like to first start off by thanking the CEO's office, Nancy, Elsa, Alex, and Eric for the wonderful work they do with our respective department in terms of really trying to figure out solutions and how to manage our budget. As was shared with you in the previous slides, ongoing costs in our respective department has really increased over the last several years. Whether you're talking about general inflation, whether you're talking about salary increases, we've all had to mitigate that way in some way, shape, or form. I think it's important to note that we also had to absorb a lot of unfunded mandates that we have to contend with, whether it be related to eligibility changes or court rulings or anything else that's required of us operationally that not only adds to additional workload, but obviously adds to our impact in terms of contracting out and needing additional services to help mitigate those unmandated, unfunded mandates. So as I mentioned, salary increases have obviously played a large part on our overriding costs. Our budget in particular requires that certain matches happen in order to continue to draw down federal and state dollars. And we've been able to mitigate a lot of that over the years through fund balance and carry forward savings. Unfortunately, we're not able to do it this particular year. We need additional support, and I'm thankful for the CEO's office to obviously make this recommendation to obviously make us whole, because as a department, we're continuing to face challenges. As you are fully well aware, we are currently being evaluated right now with our Child Protective Services. This funding allows us to continue our efforts in filling vacancies, particularly in CPS. I can tell you that over the last 4 years, our vacancy rate within CPS has gone from 17% to under 10%, anywhere from 5 to 8, depending on the area within CPS, which is a tremendous lift in terms of filling these vacancies. Again, those are obviously adding to our increased costs in operations. Our eligibility workforce, we continue to fill eligibility staff, understanding that HR1s right around the corner are actually here upon us, and we're addressing all the eligibility changes related to HR1, and where you're talking about work requirements, tracking, the new eligibility rules and changes, even the May revise added additional eligibility changes that will have implications to our operations. But we're filling critical positions in order to meet the demands of our operation, and this contribution will allow us to continue to do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lito. Any questions from the board? Okay, not seeing any. Thanks.
I want to say thank you as well to those departments that came up and talked. It is a lot of sleepless nights, and Elsa doesn't let me take days off, so we'll continue doing that as the years go on.
Supervisor Perez.
Well, I discovered that Elsa will take phone calls related to county work from the undersheriff, so I'm very curious why mine have never been taken. Larry, I assume you have proof of that, so I want to get to the bottom of that. This has been such a really user-friendly presentation. Alex, I don't know what you have done to cajole and get our department heads to the place that we are, because I know how viciously they fight for what they do and what they believe in, no question about it. And I know it's a tough time. I just appreciate you so much. The meticulousness, the detail that is provided here in such a user-friendly fashion is just, it's extraordinary, and I really appreciate you. And Elsa, tonight about 8 o'clock, I'm gonna test that out and see if we're made. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate the intel. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Parlier.
Thank you, Chairman. Alex, I had a quick question regarding the oil evaluations and the downturn, and maybe Craig can help answer this too. With the drilling permits that are coming online, do we see that there would potentially an uptick at some point with that coming back?
We are anticipating that. We'll anticipate a growth over the years, not immediately, all at once. But we are seeing an uptick in those drilling permits. But again, we don't expect an immediate impact next fiscal year. We expect that to grow over the years.
Good morning again, Craig Murphy, Director of Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. So in talking to a lot of the various companies, they've indicated that this is kind of a little bit of a ramp-up year. They're hoping that they might be able to plan and have some additional permits that they will be ready to go through the next year. With that being said, just to, because I have some updated numbers, so since you had asked, I might as well share those with you at the moment. So far we've received 826 permits that have actually been submitted to the county. At this time, we have been able to review 91% of them and either issued them or complied them. Again, our permits are broken down into a number of different types, whether it's a brand new well, conformity review, whether it's a modification to an existing well. But we've reviewed 181 conformity wells, 125 minor reworks, 194 MARs, and then 170 permit modifications. So I would estimate that the new wells fall somewhere in the 350 to 400 range based on kind of what we have from that aspect of it. But we've received good feedback from the industry as a whole. They've indicated that we've been able to respond, and CalGEM has in terms of their permits. So I know from that perspective, they are excited about the ability to get permits reviewed, and they have given some indication that, they're hopeful that as the next years come on, they'll be able to be ready to apply and issue new permits. But there has been a ramp up in terms of not only their ability to turn in the permits, but then the staffing and the personnel that can actually do the work out in the field. So, that was something that had kind of gone away because we had not been able to issue permits for a while. So they've been actively working to revamp that industry and that portion of it so that they can get to actually drilling and doing the work that they're turning in the permits for.
Well, thanks for that, Craig. And I know going from basically 0 permits to what your staff is lifting now, I know it's a huge task, and thank you for, being able to do it, really. I know you had to add on extra personnel and stuff, but that's huge, and thank you so much. And that's good news, hopefully, as we move on. So, thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Parlier. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to move over now to unfunded requests. We did receive additional requests that we're not able to fund as resources are limited. This slide here summarizes supplemental requests that were submitted but remain unfunded in the recommended budget. The largest unfunded request comes from the city of Bakersfield, which requested $5 million for jail expansion. This is a significant ongoing investment, but given the county's current revenue environment and other mandated obligations, it's not currently included in the recommended budget. We also received requests from nonprofits. You see here $10,000. This does not include the Valley Fever American Foundation of $20,000 that we heard about today. While they're relatively small, these requests do not rise to the current level of priority compared to those other mandated health and safety needs that you heard about today. The sheriff's office also requested an additional 9.7 million, and that was for additional equipment and vehicles. That remains a critical need for them, but we're focused currently in this year with maintaining resources for staffing levels and the life and safety requirements in other areas. General Services also requested 1.57 million to support equipment and additional staffing. Again, while these needs are valid, we are prioritizing maintaining core operations across the county before adding any staff or expansions. Finally, the Auditor Controller's Office requested 182,000 for additional staff. Given the staffing pressures across many departments and the need to limit ongoing commitments, we were not recommending this as part of the recommended budget. Overall, these unfunded requests provide a clear picture of pressures that remain even after absorbing significant internal impacts. Additionally, what's not included on this request is HR 1 impacts that will continuously burden the general fund. And then we didn't include the Good Neighbor crew, but there was 2 already there that provided funding for that. So that one you can discuss later. And I'll go over our general fund and regarding our methodology and why we did recommend what we did, and then our outlook. So when you look at the county's long-term fiscal outlook, one of the most important trends to understand is the relationship between the revenue growth and our cost growth, specifically growth in salaries and benefits, and our growth in property tax, which is our largest discretionary revenue source. You can see a pattern here, slowing growth over the past several years for property tax. And then, which has continuously dropped over the years, is projected to decrease to, as I mentioned earlier, just a little under 1% in 2026. Compared to the growth in salaries, which makes up the majority of our operating costs, over that same period, salaries and benefits have grew by 8%, 9%, 8%, and is expected to grow by 4% next fiscal year. Well, this shows that even though growth rates for salaries and benefits is beginning to slow, it's consistently higher than our growth in our property tax revenue. And that gap is, again, as you can see on this slide, is widening. Property tax growth is declining faster than the growth in property tax is declining faster than the growth in our salaries and benefits. That imbalance creates a long-term structural pressure on the budget. When revenue grows slower than the cost, it becomes incredibly difficult to maintain those service levels without identifying new revenue sources or reducing costs, or both. Understanding this trend is critical as we continue to plan for the years ahead. It highlights why careful financial planning, cost management, and strategic decision-making will be essential to maintaining fiscal stability. We've updated our 5-year forecast, our forecast for the outer years. You'll see that we have 8.9 million in growth in discretionary revenue. We also have budgetary reallocations, or what's called budgetary clawbacks. Supervisor Peters stressed efficiencies and looking at departments and what we can save. We found some, not, well, minor, it is beneficial. That was 1.8 million. But you see your additional cost increases there of 35.5 million, and that structural deficit maintaining throughout the years. Health benefit costs continue to rise sharply in the first year, and then we begin to absorb new costs associated with SB 525. Moving to 27, 28, many of those same pressures continue. Several pressures remain elevated. Your general liability, mandated social services increase, and then in 28, 29, we see a temporary shift with our pension obligation bond payments dropping off, creating a 1-year reduction in cost pressures, which results in a change of 4.9 million, giving us a brief period of relief. However, by 29, 30, costs continue to rise again, increasing workers' comp, general liability, and mandated program costs, leading to an increase again of 11.5 million that you see there. Cumulatively, this results in a projected deficit of 31.1 million by fiscal year 29-30. These figures underscore the importance of long-term planning and the need to carefully manage both revenue growth and cost pressures as we move forward. I know that's difficult to read, so here we summarize it and provide bigger numbers. I too now wear glasses, so I provide bigger numbers here for ease of reading, especially in the back. This slide is the summary of the previous slide. You can see the overall picture of our general fund forecast through 29-30. The main trend is revenue does not while revenue is growing, they're not keeping pace with the cost pressures we're facing. In 26-27, we see about 10.8 million in ongoing revenue, but nearly 35.6 million in ongoing cost increases. That leaves there a deficit of about 24.8 million. And as noted earlier, that was offset with use of fund balance and the remainder absorbed through departments' budgets. As we look forward to 27-28, those pressures continue and revenue is projected to increase. However, our costs are expected to rise more. These pressures are causing us to do several cost control strategies. One area that we're looking at is our discussion with, we're evaluating, is our discussion with the Kern County Bar Association to evaluate cost escalation and identify ways to mitigate rising expenses associated with conflict defense. In conjunction, we're also examining alternative service models, which could include the potential use of an alternative defender to ensure we maintain high-quality representation while managing long-term exposure. We're also collaborating with General Services to evaluate utility cost trends and identify any opportunities for operational efficiencies. And we continue to assess the feasibility of a 10% transfer flexibility between sub-accounts within the 2011 realignment structure to better align resources with service demands. We're in discussion with behavioral health and human services for that strategic approach. Together, these efforts represent a comprehensive approach to managing difficult fiscal years that require disciplined planning, thoughtful prioritization, and a willingness to explore every viable option to stabilize our long-term fiscal position. When you look across all the years collectively, again, we have an unresolved cumulative deficit of 31.1 million by 2039. This reinforces the need for ongoing multi-year planning, continued cost management, and strategic use of our reserves to maintain a strategic balance. So I'm almost to the end here. The key takeaways for today as we look at this final slide, the image here that we provided is intentional. It reflects the path ahead, one that includes challenges, uncertainty, and stretches where the climb will be steep. Our fiscal outlook makes that clear. We are relying on reserves and other one-time solutions to help maintain stability. But those tools don't resolve our long-term structural pressures. Revenue growth remains modest, and we continue to navigate significant uncertainty at both the state and federal level. This image reminds us of something else. Even when the road ahead isn't straight, we remain grounded in our core priorities. Our budget theme this year, thanks to Elsa, is anchored through uncertainty and committed to our future. We are anchored through our responsible planning, disciplined decision-making, and focus on long-term stability. We remain committed to our future, to the services of our residents, and making thoughtful choices that position Kern County in a better future. The road may be difficult, but we're navigating it with direction. We have a plan, we have a path, and we are committed to staying steady through the uncertainty ahead. The recommendations today are to hear public comment and provide direction, discuss and provide direction on the 26-27 recommended budget. That concludes my comments, and we're available for any questions your board may have.
Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. That was very informative, and I feel like Supervisor Perez said it was very easy for folks to grasp kind of the whole picture, so I appreciate that. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, not seeing any. We'll open it up to public comment if anybody would like to share their thoughts on this.
Elizabeth García.
My name is Elizabeth Garcia.
Soy miembro del Comité de Progreso de Lamont.
I am a member of the Committee for Progress in Lamont.
Y estoy aquí para pedirles que consideren asignar
¿Para qué?
para que consideren asignar más fondos en el budget para la infraestructura.
And I'm here to request that you provide more funds for the infrastructure
Para seguir mejorando las calles
to continue improving the streets.
de Lamont.
¿De qué?
De Lamont.
The streets in Lamont.
Y también quiero agradecerles
I would also like to appreciate
todo el trabajo que se ha hecho hasta hoy.
all the work that has been done up until now.
Me da mucha alegría y satisfacción
We're very happy and very satisfied
que se está mejorando todo poco a poco.
that everything is getting better little by little.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Peter and members of the board. My name is Diana Mireles. I'm a community organizer with CRPE, Center Race Poverty and Environment. And I'm here like every year asking to allocate more money for the infrastructure, the road improvements. That's very important for our communities. But first, I want to thank to have that translation. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Spanish speakers today, residents, personal issues and work related, but I appreciate that. So one of the things that they are very important to the roads improvements is this past winter. We have a lot of foggy days, so that's why they asking for the flashing lights. When they raise their voices more that we need flashing lights because the visibility was really bad. We didn't see the stop signs until we get there. So they expect a lot of almost crash, especially those people that have to drive to the work. We have a lot of agriculture workers, and they need to bring the food every day. They can't skip work. So that's why we're encouraged to allocate more money for the road improvements. We need a lot of improvements in the communities, Lamont, Chafter, Arvin, Delano, McFarland, Wasco. So that's the communities that we support. So anything that it's on CRPE, we're more than happy to help to find grants with the letters, support letters. We have committees in Arvin and Lamont, chapter, and they are more happy to helping with the support letters. I want to thank you to the Department of CAO, Elsa, Supervisor Couch, and the Public Works. They always have time to meet with us. So, and thank you. And I'm sorry, Supervisor Perlier is not here, but I want to make an appointment to have a meeting with him too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Joel. It's JOELPARAMO, and I'm representing the Greater Bakersfield Chamber, and I serve on the Jail Bed Task Force. Over the past several months, we've identified a clear issue. We do not currently have enough jail beds or the capacity needed to effectively address chronic low-level offenders in our community. And while this is part of a broader statewide challenge, the impacts are being felt locally every day by our residents and business community through repeated theft, vandalism, and ongoing public safety concerns. And what's important today is that we are no longer just discussing the problem. We now have a viable path forward through the proposed use of the Taft facility. This effort is not simply about adding beds, it's about creating enough time and structure to stabilize individuals, and begin breaking through their cycles of repeated offense impacting our community. The City of Bakersfield has already stepped forward with leadership and initial funding. We now encourage the County of Kern to work collaboratively with the city to identify a solution that is fiscally responsible, operationally realistic, and scalable over time. From the Chamber's perspective, this issue directly impacts economic vitality, public confidence, and the ability of businesses to operate safely and successfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chair and board members.
My name is Abby Power, ABBYPOWER. I'm a policy advocate with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. And in regard to the county's budget proposal, I would like to request that the county consider allocating funds for the acquisition and construction of a drainage basin to serve the communities of Fuller Acres and Athol. For years, residents have shared their experiences with extreme flooding in their community. During rain, many of the streets within the community are flooded so that students walking to the bus or the school are walking in water up to their knees. Highway 184 also becomes flooded, causing students to walk around heavy pooled water onto the shoulder of the highway. And while the county has done a good job of responding to pump water out, only a drainage system will address this problem throughout the community. In the long term, the community hopes to see curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and a proper drainage system, but we know that this will take time, and for that reason, in the short term, we ask the county to start the process by funding the acquisition and construction of a drainage basin. You may be aware that Caltrans is constructing one on Hermosa Road. However, it's not going to address the flooding in Fuller Acres and Athol. In addition, a drainage basin will help provide sidewalks on Highway 184 on the east side of the road. Fuller Acres and Athol are located right off of the highway in a 50-mile-per-hour speed zone where there have been multiple pedestrian fatalities. There are also bus stops for Kern Transit and Lamont Elementary School, and there's currently no sidewalk on the residential side of this road. And Caltrans is constructing a rehabilitation project. They're not installing sidewalks at this time, and one of the factors is because there is not a drainage basin located in the vicinity. In the immediate term, we also request that the county work with Caltrans to advocate on the community's behalf for safety features that could protect pedestrians from traffic. This could be in the form of adding asphalt as a barrier between traffic lanes and the Class 2 bike lane that is being built by Caltrans through the corridor, or plastic barriers. The county should also consider collaborating with Caltrans by allocating Measure K dollars to fund this immediate safety measure if Caltrans is unable to fund it. Lastly, I just want to thank Supervisor Couch for meeting with the community to discuss this issue. Thank you all.
Thank you. Supervisor Parley.
Thank you. Miss? So this Thursday, there's a meeting for Kern COG. It's public speaking too. Kern COG sometimes is able to get some funding for different projects, road projects. There's representatives from Caltrans that'll be there too. So I think it's important if you have the availability, we can get you the time and stuff. It's at night, I believe it starts at 6. But to have you there and speak, and you never know.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'll make sure
All right.
to get that one to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please. Okay, not seeing any. I will bring it back to the board for any comments and to provide direction to staff. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. I appreciate the hard work that has gone into making today possible, because these are challenging times. People all over are facing challenging times, so it's not unusual to Kern County, but I know how much we care about our work. I know how much we care about our workforce. And so, these are challenging times, and I appreciate all the TLC that has gone into the nuances, the details that are important here. Of course, I don't feel compelled to disagree with you on any thing that I have seen presented here, other than to say I'm grateful that are people who are much better with numbers than me, who are crunching such things and doing it with heart and real concern for sustainability over time. Times are tough, times are good, that's normal. This is a real tough one, and we'll get through it, but it's going to require some change. So this, to me, it seems like modest change as much as is humanly possible. I'm sure department heads don't feel that way. I don't mean to be flippant. Really, I don't. I'm sorry if it seems that way, but given the gravity of what we're experiencing and what's coming, this really feels like an excellent start, and I want to say thank you for that. If the motion, I know we've got to hear from our colleagues, but if the motion is to receive and file, that's part of it, but also, to me, it seems you've provided great direction, as is your expertise and as your duty to do so. I feel that I've received good direction from you, and I feel in compliance moving forward. We'll see what my colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Flores.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. I'll second that motion, and thank you for your words. Also like to thank staff for including Hope on Heart and the Tiny Home Project and I know this is a transition because we're moving from American Rescue Act funding, which was really critical to starting that, to sustaining that. But I want to commend our county's response that as we transition to general fund, that be brought back. I appreciate that treatment, and I look forward to having that as part of the budget discussion as we move forward, because the work they're doing there is truly transformational. And the reason why the PIT count has stayed relatively flat is because all these efforts, M Street, private providers, Hope the Mission, and so I'd like to see that moving forward come back. And thank you for putting that in the general fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Flores. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to our last agenda item, and that is a report on polling and survey results regarding Kern County's transient occupancy tax. And we'll give staff just a minute to get settled in. And whenever you're ready, I'll turn it over to Jason Weeby.
Right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jason Weeby. I'm with the County Administrative Office. So just provide a little bit of background and context. Back in February, we provided a report to your board kind of discussing the comparison of the county's transient occupancy tax rate versus other California counties, San Joaquin Valley counties, and cities in the county and municipalities within Kern County. So after that, your board provided direction to staff to maybe do some outreach, some polling and surveys, and this is to bring back information on that today. But I did want to provide a little bit of background. TOT, of course, is generated by visitors who pay the rate when staying at any lodging facility. That could be a hotel, motel, or short-term rental facility of 30 days or less. TOT taxes are used toward general countywide services, include law enforcement, animal services, library services, any type of service that the county may provide in terms of public safety and quality of life issues. TOT, how is it collected? So it's remitted by hotels and short-term rentals. It is not collected, one thing I did learn throughout this process, it is not collected at the point of booking or checkout or whatever it may be. So these rentals or hotels, motels, what they do is they pay quarterly from the revenue they receive from visitors. So they keep I think they're supposed to not commingle it with other sources of revenue. They're supposed to keep a separate pot of that percentage and then pay the treasurer tax collector on a quarterly basis through their portal. Each of these entities will have a TOT tax certificate. These are operators that are required to obtain an occupancy registration certificate from the treasurer tax collector's office. Probably not an exact amount, but I think a pretty good depiction of certificates in the unincorporated Kern County area are close to 90, 87 hotel motel certificates, and short-term vacation rental certificates, Airbnb, VRBO types of properties are close to 640 in unincorporated Kern County. So who pays transient occupancy taxes? Our treasurer tax collector, who's here today, if you have any questions for him, Jordan Kaufman has been really terrific in collaborating and providing information. He estimates that well over 90% if it is paid by visitors to Kern County that do not currently reside in Kern County, and nearly half excuse me, of the revenue collected is from short-term vacation rentals, even though they outnumber hotels, motels by nearly 8 to 1. Obviously, they don't have the number of rooms a hotel, motel does, but they still probably contribute close to half of the revenue we receive from TOT collections. So we're very fortunate, I think, over the last close to 10 years, we've been able to capture, according to Jordan, and he's verified this, probably well over 95, close to 100% of all the revenue from these short-term lodging facilities. We use a vendor that investigates all short-term lodging facilities to ensure they obtain an occupancy registration certificate. They scrape all the listings through Airbnb, VRBO, anything else that exists, and ensures that they are in compliance. So there's a level of confidence that we are not missing out on a lot of, for lack of a better term, rogue short-term vacation rentals that aren't complying by paying their fair share of TOT. So that's been going on since I think at least 2017, 2018, so nearly the last 10 years that we've been doing that. And just a little bit of recap in terms of the rates. You'll see here that the city rates in Kern County are about 9% as an average, whereas we remain at 6%. The San Joaquin Valley counties are close to 8%, while we remain at 6%. And if you were to take the 58 California county average, it's close to 10, whereas we remain at 6. So I showed this slide last time, but I just wanted to provide some additional context for this discussion. How much do we collect? So we collect this last fiscal year, $3.8 million, the prior fiscal year, $3.9 million. So it's close to $4 million annually. So if we were to double that, for example, to 12%, which is the city of Bakersfield rate, that would bring in an additional close to $4 million revenue on an annual basis. Again, we feel confident that we're capturing every bit of that we can with the vendor and the process that the treasurer and tax collector is using. So a real-world example of how it would apply if we were to look at the actual rate. So I know I've gotten a lot of emails, as you might imagine. I know rates can vary from a riverfront property to $400 a night to a small motel in an outlying area to $50 to $60 a night. But the average cost in Kern County is approximately $130 to $150 per night, taking an average. So an increase of 6% would mean a cost between $7.80 and $9 a night for visitors staying in Kern County. So just wanted to kind of put that in a real world experience term and show what it would mean to increase it by 6% per night for visitors. So now I'll get to the survey and stakeholder process. We did two things. We used a pollster, the same pollster we used for Measure K polling, to poll 627 Kern County registered voters that are likely to participate in the November general election. We also distributed surveys to nearly 800 stakeholders, which included chambers of commerce and direct owners operators of the hotel, motel, lodging industry. So the polling was done over late April, a little later than we had hoped, but it did complete in late April, and we recently, as of a couple of weeks ago, got results. You can see a comparison here between Measure K and what we received for the TOT ballot measure, which would raise it 6%. The Measure K results were 54% when given opposing and supporting arguments for the poll, and as you all know, it passed with a 51% margin. So when giving opposing and supporting arguments for raising the TOT rate, the number came in at 51%, slightly lower, but within the margin of error of 4%. The margin of error for a poll of this size was 4%, so it's very comparable to the Measure K results, just slightly below that, but within the measure margin of error. So we did, as I mentioned, survey hotel, motel, and short-term rental owners and operators, close to 800. I got close to 200 responses to the survey, another 200 emails with additional information they wanted to provide, and nearly 98% of those were unlikely or very unlikely to support a TOT rate increase, even when used for a particular county services that they supported. Overwhelmingly, most of them answered if it were to be passed, they would want that reinvested in economic development, travel and tourism, followed by wildfire mitigation and other public safety measures. But even when asked if that money was dedicated to those purposes, an overwhelming majority were unlikely to support a TOT rate increase. Some of the common concerns, I know there's many beyond this, but I tried to narrow it down to 6 common concerns. Rising costs of doing business, insurance costs, especially in the rural mountain areas, wildfire insurance, cost of maintenance, utilities, insurance, staffing, just inflationary pressures that everyone's experiencing right now that we heard from our budget presentation. Rural parts of Kern County are not like Bakersfield. They don't have conventions. They don't have other events, attractions, sporting events, et cetera, that draw visitors. Visitors and tourists to rural areas are more price sensitive. A lot of these visitors are budget travelers. People coming from the LA area to the Kern River Valley, for example, aren't choosing between the Kern River Valley and Miami Beach. They're very budget conscious travelers, and any additional price addition could have an impact. Most lodging facilities are currently small businesses with very thin profit margins. Some relayed to me that they're currently losing money. Many thought the travel and tourism industry is being singled out to help ease a budget challenge they didn't create. And I think an overwhelming sense that it's poor timing. Properties are currently experiencing reduced bookings due to higher gas prices and the other inflationary pressures that I referred to. And I think many aren't opposed to it in concept. They said they understand. A lot of them said they understand 6% is probably too low. But the timing right now is poor because they're barely making ends meet or not making ends meet at all. So this one was a little trickier. I did reach out to all the chambers of commerce, didn't hear from all of them, tried to follow up via phone call and additional emails. Didn't hear from as many as I would have liked. But I think the overwhelming consensus was they were neutral, but were more likely to support it if it was reinvested in economic development and travel and tourism. So one of the timing issues was when we couldn't do this simultaneously to the poll because it would reduce the validity of the poll. So we didn't want to have 2 surveys out at once, people getting duplicate emails. And there wasn't a lot of time, but I do think after the engagement I've had with some of the chambers, some of the hotel, motel, and STR owner-operators, this is really just the beginning of the engagement process. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing discussion and dialogue we have in terms of where we go, use of the money, et cetera. So for those chambers of commerce that haven't had a chance to engage with me and provide feedback, rest assured the conversation is just beginning, and I'm committed to reaching out to all of you. So just some concluding thoughts. Our 6% rate has been in place since at least 1992. It's as far back as I could find, but at least 1992. For the last 25 years, since 2001, the operational costs for Kern County services have increased 226%. That's not capital costs, that's just operational costs have increased by that amount. And our operational costs include providing support and services to our visitors, whether it's public safety, public health, public works, wildfire mitigation efforts, 911 response, really any service that protects the health and safety of our visitors and tourists are part of our operational costs. So that kind of is some of the context behind why we're looking at this and discussing it and providing this information to your board. So the next steps for your board, you can do nothing. You can take no action at this time. You can direct staff to draft an ordinance no later than June 16th for submission to the Registrar of Voters for the November 3rd, 2026 general election, or you can provide any other direction as your board deems appropriate. The formal action for your board is to receive and file this report, and again, we're asking for you to provide direction to staff as well. That concludes my prepared remarks. Happy to answer any questions. I know I expected a lot of people from the Kern River Valley today. I think the closure of 178 due to the fire has prevented that, but happy to answer any questions from the public or your board.
I appreciate that presentation. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, do you have, I feel like at a meeting a while back, you showed us some data about where TOT is being collected currently in the county, like where we're seeing the most visitors. Do you have that information available? Or can you give us a sense of that?
I don't have it accessible, but if I recall correctly, I believe the mountain communities, Pine Mountain communities, unincorporated areas around Tehachapi and the Kern River Valley were probably the three most outside of unincorporated Bakersfield. Unincorporated Bakersfield, you have a lot of large hotels with many rooms. So those would be the four areas. I think the short-term lodging contributions in those three areas in the Tehachapi, Kern River Valley, and mountain communities are the primary driver of revenue for those three communities, and hotel motels for unincorporated Bakersfield. I don't have the dollar figures with me, but I think they were fairly equal.
Okay. Another question I had was TOT dollars that we're collecting currently. Do you have an idea of how those are being allocated, where we're using those funds?
Consistent with, Mr. Chairman, consistent with the way we allocate our funds. It's whatever the percentages are, public safety, et cetera. So they go into the general fund, and they are allocated consistent with other budget priorities, which is typically public safety number one, and those that follow that.
Okay. Well, I won't. Well, I'd like to hear from what my other colleagues think about it, but just from where I am, I think that I agree with the idea that this is just not the right time for this. There's a lot of pressures that we're seeing. The inflationary pressures that even the county is feeling right now. I know that everyday folks that are just looking to travel are feeling those as well, and that's hitting our tourism economy, and that's hitting our small business owners that serve those communities particularly hard. So I generally wouldn't be in favor of implementing this right now, but I would like to consider using some of this information that we gathered to kind of inform how we're allocating those dollars and look at perhaps prioritizing using the funds that we're getting right now for attracting tourism and for bringing more visitors to the county. So with that, I will go to our Supervisor Perez.
Thank you so much. I agree, timing is terrible. It's a rough time globally. And times are going to improve. They will moderate, and we will continue to thrive here in Kern County. I authentically believe that. So the timing of this is bad. I agree with Peters on that. But I think the larger structural question is, are we going to close this gap? Because this, to me, is a legitimate gap, even in comparison to Central Valley counties that are traditionally very opposed to tax increases for the obvious reasons. But I see that structurally speaking, we are behind, it appears, and it therefore appears to me to be low-hanging fruit for us to collect at some level as economies boom and bust and the world goes on. So I'm aware that my Taxpayers Association, Mr. Turnipseed, supports putting this forward to the voters. So the voters for the voters to choose. I love when the voters can make a decision for us. I think that's always the best way to go. Absolutely. And so I'm open to asking the public if they want to close the structural gap, in particular in light of what we're experiencing. Because this is about our skeleton and how we operate over a long term, and if the timing's not now, I think we should do it eventually. And anytime we ask the voters, I think we're making the appropriate steps. So anyway, those are my thoughts right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Parlier.
Well, I agree with my colleagues. When this was first asked to bring back the information, gas was about a little over $4 a gallon. Now we're closing in on $7. So It's totally understandable that travelers that want to come in from out of area have to factor in their gas now, along with their lodging. But I do agree that at some point, that structural gap needs to be discussed, whether it's 12% or somewhere in between the 6 and 12. But in the meantime, I'd say just keep gathering information, talking to people within the community, and I make a motion to receive and file.
Thank you, Supervisor Parley. Okay, any other questions or comments before we go to a vote? Okay. I'm sorry, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go to that just momentarily. Okay, just make sure there's no other comments. Okay, we'll go to the public now, if there's any comments from the public.
Hey, it's me again, Joel Paramo, on behalf of the chamber. We do not presently oppose the county's exploration of this potential increase to the TOT, but we did want to express concern regarding the stakeholder engagement process. Jason, unfortunately, we didn't hear from you. The Kern County Hispanic Chamber didn't hear from you, and quite a few other chambers expressed the same. We had to learn about this proposal and survey efforts through community partners, and we have heard similar concerns from our members. We recognize the county's responsibility to evaluate revenue needs. However, proposals impacting tourism, hospitality, and regional competitiveness warrant engagement with the organizations representing those sectors. And in my experience in the last week trying to figure out this proposal, many of the members I've spoken to would support it. So I'm going to just put that there. Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Hello. I've never been to one of these before, so I promise I'm more serious than I look. I'm just wearing a hoodie, so but. You look great. Thank you. I'm from Kernville, and I operate the Whispering Pines Lodge, and yeah, a lot of the stuff that was mentioned was pretty accurate, I'd say. Like talking to other owners, everyone's jaw kind of drops when they heard about this, and they're like what's going, like what's happening? Almost like they didn't really believe it. And I'm not trying to come in with a bias. I understand the challenges. After seeing like the big numbers here, you know, I just have to be selfish and try to, you know, deal with what we deal with. I think some of the benchmarks are a little bit off. So just the difference between like a small town and a big town is of course a huge difference. And sorry, one second. So the guests just see the final price and that's all they care about. And we were already going to raise our rates anyway to keep up with the rising costs, but then we have to raise it again. And we're already getting a little bit of pushback, kind of surprisingly, I guess, or maybe not so surprisingly. So as a small lodge, we kind of run on very thin margins, and it's kind of a survival mode in the winter. Actually, we don't survive. We lose money, but then we have to make it back in the summer. So we kind of break even. And we often have to give a lot of discounts. And if you do 12%, sometimes the OTAs, which is like Booking.com or Expedia, or 20%, you're looking at 32%. We don't see any of that. And I think we're just wondering that Kernville is kind of random in the context of Kern, and I don't know if that money is going to come back to us because we're just kind of out there, but we're going to be taking the big hit. And yeah, we don't know where it's going to come back from. It's 30 cents on the dollar, so it does solve 4 million of the 14 million, I think, but man, that's a huge impact for us just to solve that much of a difference. And yeah, a lot of the stuff was already said, but everyone in Kernville for sure opposes it, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any comments. Supervisor Flores.
Thank you, Chairman. I did have one question. Thanks for this interim update. So I know the election is in November, so we've got some time, but we don't have some time in terms of deadlines. What are the immediate deadlines? And if the board is interested, when might this come back for final approval or denial? I mean, to get it on the ballot.
Supervisor.
We're not doing that today, but just
Yeah.
future.
Supervisor Flores through the chair, your final board meeting would be June 16th for you to enact an ordinance or vote on an ordinance to make the November ballot. So there's the June 9th meeting and the June 16th meeting where you could consider an ordinance to adopt it and put it on the November ballot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion to receive and file. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, that takes us to the end of our morning agenda, and we will now adjourn to closed session to consider items 35 and 36 under the CAO's office and 37 and 38 under county council.
Motion to adjourn?